Hello, and welcome to the bottom of the internet. This is another Dead Pixel, the podcast that used to be about video games. My name is Nick, and I'll be your host today. Here with me is the man who wrote Final Fantasy X-2. It's Joe. Joe, how you doing today?
Doing all right, man. I mean, they wanted to submit your Dojin fanfic, and so I went ahead and submitted it, and turns out they just stole my idea and just ran with it for a whole new game. Granted, they took my beautiful art and turned it into perversion, but I still say, I'm waiting for the remaster of that. 4K, all the dress changes, the director's cut. You guys will just be surprised.
Do, do you think you'll get royalties with the remake?
Oh, dude, you know how the Japanese roll. Once they steal your stuff, you never get it back.
You don't have to pin that on the Japanese.
Oh, no way, dude. Those businessmen are like old school.
You're supposed to say Square.
At least in America,
Enix.
you have an easier time suing people. I mean, you may not succeed, but you have a far easier time. Them, they'll just laugh at you and be like, "What are you talking about?"
You're supposed to say Square Enix, dude, not like all of the Japanese people.
All the businesses, considering the fact that
Oh, okay.
just even renting an apartment there was a nightmare and a half.
Oh
Well, you're
man.
foreign. Let's ask if this apartment complex lets foreigners in. No, seriously, that was a part of the process.
uh,
The apartment manager said it's okay to have foreigners. Oh, that's nice.
good. Uh, I'm glad. I'm glad that that's allowed. Um, you know. Then I
Dude,
guess obviously
I've been
dogs.
denied cabs, but in Korea, Japan, and in China. I like all three. It's just for being Western.
I got denied cabs in China. Yeah, that happened. I never had it in Japan. I don't remember, but it might have been. It might have. I might just be forgetting. But
And the thing is, I wasn't even drunk. I mean, I can understand if I was belligerent or something like that. Um, I wasn't carrying around like souvenir katanas or something. I wasn't walking around with airsoft pistols out in the open. Um, like I haven't done that before. Uh,
no, officer, never done that before. Uh, man, that's crazy. Yeah, like those are some crazy times. But like otherwise, how you been? You. I think I
oh
are you talking
man.
about how you had some issues this past week, right?
Oh yeah, the last couple of weeks have been a doozy. So after we had our last podcast, so had a good New Year's with a buddy of mine. The tradition is he comes over for every New Year's. He almost had COVID, or he
He
was
thought he
afraid he
did.
might have it,
Yeah.
and so he had to go through the. I mentioned last time he had to go through hell trying to get his test. He came over and everything was great, and then come that following Monday, uh, the daycare calls us and goes, "Yeah, so like a bunch of us caught COVID. There's like at least multiple teachers and a couple parents and possibly a couple children. So we're closing. We have to close down for like 3 days." I'm like, "Oh right," and I'm like, "Okay, so who's?" They didn't give me the names of who was exposed. I'm like, "So who was exposed to my kid? When was the last time they were?" Because according to the pediatrician, you have to wait 5 days since they were last contact with the exposed person, and then they can get tested. And so like, okay, that would have been Friday, so right before New Year's. And I'm like, all right, so the next time I can get my kid tested was Wednesday. Uh, got him tested, didn't get the results until late Friday. So the entire week, my son had to hang with us, which was fine, except for the fact that uh, he is a bundle of energy, and I only have so much to give. So that was very taxing. He had a good time. Everything was fine. He turned out he wasn't, he didn't catch it, so that was great. Then he went back to school last week. And then come Friday, a couple days ago, he comes home and within 10, 15 minutes starts projectile vomiting. Just No, literally, it's just like he's just sitting on my lap. And he's like, "Whoa," like it was chunky, and I'm like, "Is this onion?" no, this is fruit. This is some kind of fruit. I could look at his report like sheet later. I'm like, yeah, okay, he had fruit for lunch, a fruit cocktail, something, or but yeah, we took him, showered him up and everything, got him changed out, sat him on my lap again. Blah! I'm like, round two, get him cleaned up. I'm like, okay, well, he's only gotten a stomach illness like 2 or 3 times in his life, and so every time he's done that, he's gotten sick a couple times and threw up, just really quickly. So the second time I wasn't too surprised, but the volume of it was pretty surprising, and he ended up. So we're like, okay, well, after a couple times, he's usually pretty energetic and pretty good to go, and he was still energetic, but then he continued to throw up for like the next 5 hours on a regular interval of like anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, so it went from like 6 to like something like 1 or 2 in the morning. And it's like he had no fever. He seemed pretty much okay, except for the fact that he couldn't, he just kept on throwing up. And eventually, well, by the time it got that late, it wasn't, it was just bile, essentially. It was very little, but it was more like cough, 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 throw up. And then it's like he's learned to try to stop it. And then eventually we had an old yogurt container, like a big, or no, it was a sour cream or something like that. And I had that as his mini bucket. So the moment he started to retch, I literally put it in front of his face, put his head down, and I'm like, and yeah, I felt so bad, but it's just like, all right, man.
This is how it goes.
And then I'm like, no, you got it. Okay, cool. Clean that out, rinse it with soap, bring it back for round 2, because in anywhere from 15 to 30 minutes, you're gonna go again. It was nightmarish. And then it continued more or less for the next day and a half. It wasn't that it got down like the next morning he was, because of course you're afraid of dehydration at that point for your kids.
Yeah.
And so we tried giving him some water, and then like, okay, cool. We waited like 15 minutes and gave him some more water, a couple ounces here and a couple ounces there, and then like, oh, we're doing good. All of a sudden, he just spits it all back up, and we tried milk and this and that, and eventually, like after almost a full 24 hours or something like that, or maybe it was like 18 hours or something, we started giving him little syringes of like for Tylenol and stuff like that. It's a 5 millimeter syringe, and so every 5 minutes I gave him 5 milliliters of, or milliliters, I'm sorry, 5 milliliters of water. And so then 5 minutes would go by, and I'd give him another 5. And the thing, of course, the worst part is he's begging for like more water. He's just like, he knows the hand gestures to do it, so he's like, or he kind of does it. So he's like, it's supposed to be sign language is supposed to be 3 up to the mouth. That's what you teach, because toddlers can learn sign language easier than they can speak. They can speak. So but he does this. He just brings his whole hand to his mouth and goes wah wah wah. And so he just keeps on doing that. And you're like, I'm sorry, buddy, I can't. You're literally gonna throw it back up. And yeah, so he's like, we're okay, cool. He looks like he's doing good. And we took him to, we did also during the day take him to the doctor, and the doctor's like, yeah, it's just a stomach flu. Like we got tested for COVID again, and also influenza and stuff. And he already had his flu shot, so we're safe. But we double check, and yeah, no, he tested all clear. It's just he got some weird stomach bug.
Yeah, I mean that's gonna go around too. Yeah. Like just, and he's at the age that they're just gonna get that. And yeah, like sorry man, you're not gonna be able to hold this down. I'm doing you a favor by not giving you any water right now. But
yeah, and you just
careful.
Like, I don't know how he survived. It's so weird because like he went like a day and a half plus no eating at all and almost no drinking, and I'm like, oh dude, I don't know how you. It's like, you're like, are you gonna die on me, man? I'm like, I don't think you are, but it's just like, this is your mind especially after getting no sleep. You have like delirium. You're like, the worst is gonna happen. This morning he bounced back. He's like he slept for a good like 4 hours last, and that was like the longest stretch. And like he came up and he's like, yeah, I'm doing pretty good. And we slowly introduced him to things, and by the end of the day today, he was just like, yeah, I can eat most of the basic stuff now. Like we give him Cheerios toast. There's the brat or brat diet mentality, which is banana, applesauce, rice, and toast. So BRAT. Those are supposed to be like good, easy foods for kids to eat.
Okay, yeah.
So yeah, we had a lot of applesauce, and that's what we ended up giving him a bunch of that because we were like that's more liquid, so that was easier for him to take down. And yeah, he's ganky again. He's all energetic. So it's awesome. I just am running on like 4 to 5 hours of sleep in the last 3 nights. So
Yeah, I mean that's better than like what you had before, whenever it was like really really bad though, right? I mean, you tell me one point you only getting like 2 hours a night, right?
oh, I got less than 2 hours. Yeah, so that's why we're recording this late.
Oh yeah,
Mostly
we should
because
address
I
that.
couldn't. Yeah, so sorry guys. We're recording late just because I literally couldn't leave him alone. And it's my wife can't take care of 2 kids at once, especially when one's probably vomiting. So we did a lot of laundry.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that would be required with kid thrown up everywhere. But yeah, like we wanted to do this on Friday, obviously, like we usually do. That's when we usually record, and then upload on Saturday. But that wasn't going to happen. And Saturday, there was other stuff, and wasn't. It probably was best to let people get some rest. So it's Sunday now. Probably not going to go up until Monday, but that's okay. It's better be a little late than never. And I think the circumstances are pretty understandable.
yeah, it was. I really wanted to try to get it up, but unfortunately, just uh, my kid was just I could not leave him alone, and it's yeah, poor guy, man. He's like I said, he's doing good now, so that's good. But it's one of those things that you don't feel you feel the most like a bag of shit when you can't help a family member or something out because it's like all you can do is just sit there and just be like let me help clean you up, and that's really about it. And especially like I said, especially when he's asking for things and you have to deny him, you're like I'm sorry, like I have to be the bully. Yeah, and they look at you all pitiful like why aren't you helping me? I'm like I yeah. So
Okay.
that's been my super hectic last like 72 hours.
Yeah, I did not
So
envy that at all. I did not envy that at all.
yeah, you've been really cool about it, so I really do appreciate it. Like, you know, uh, yeah,
Oh,
it's one of those
thanks.
things that hopefully it won't have to happen too often. And if there is, if there ever is, a time we have to miss due to any emergencies or anything on either end, we'll throw up a we'll have some canned content to throw up for our viewers in the future. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
hopefully. Well, we have a little bit of emergency fund episodes that we're gonna be able to put out, and what those are gonna be exactly remains to be seen. Hopefully, we won't have to use them for a while, and if not, then we'll just put them out as. But that's all like inside baseball stuff. But yeah, man, we're here now though. And that's good. I actually have I don't know, a Seinfeldian quandary for you, I guess is what I would call it. So, um,
yada yada yada. That's all I know.
yeah, yada yada yada.
No soup for you. Okay.
I mentioned the bisque. That's a good one too. He was angry that day, my friends. So I went and saw a movie that I'll talk about later, but I went and saw this movie in the theater. Um, and I sat, and so because so like I ordered my tickets online, and I wanted to sit, it kind of toward the center, and also you're not allowed to pick a seat between people, so I had to sit like right next to somebody, right? So I so so like I'm at the movie, got my popcorn, stuff like that, and my drink, and I'm eating and all this stuff. And so we're about like 20 minutes into the movie by the time I finish my popcorn and my Snickers bar and get a good ways on my drink. And I'm sitting next to this person, right? This person is wearing a mask, you know, the whole time. That's fine. That's cool. You do you, lady. Um, so, but it's been like 20 or 30 minutes, and I finally finished my popcorn, and I put it down on my seat, and I'm just sitting there watching the movie, right? And I noticed that she looks over at me, and then she like turns back to the movie, and I was like, that was kind of weird. And then a few minutes go by, and then she like looks over at me again, And then she kind of turns back to me for a second. And then she turns to me and she goes, "Could you put your mask on?" And I was like, without missing a beat, I was like, "Oh yeah, sure." So I dig around, I find my mask, and I put it on. But I was just kind of like thinking, I was like kind of like thinking like, I mean, I get it, I get it, but it's like, what do you think about that? Like,
It sounds like if you're asking, you don't get it.
like, I mean,
Because if you got it, it wouldn't be a fucking problem, now would it?
like I
All
put,
right.
like I put the mask on because I because she asked me to, and because that's fine with me. Like,
Because we know that you're not, because you know that you're impervious to COVID, right? So we've established this, and that
well,
you couldn't possibly give it to anyone
I've
else.
already had COVID, and so I have like the most
They don't
robust
know that though.
antibodies on the planet right now. So I'm just like, okay. So we've sat next to each other because I was there before the movie without my mask on. So we've sat next to each other for 45 minutes here. Um, I've been breathing. You have a mask on. Um, and we're sitting like right next to each other. I don't know how much putting a mask on for the next hour or so is really going to help, but I don't know. I was like, I'm happy to do it if that's what she wants, but I'm also kind of like, if you're that worried about it, why are you at this movie, you know? But I don't know. I was just kind of like, I mean, like, what would
There's a level
you?
of courtesy. All right, there's a level of courtesy that should be given. But one thing is, I haven't been to the movie since COVID happened, and nor do I want to. So that's my answer to your thing is, just don't go to the fucking movies. Watch it at home.
I mean,
Everything is streaming. Everything is, like you almost day and day. And if it's not, it's probably not worth it anyways.
yeah.
Uh,
So like
so yeah,
to her credit, like it's a movie that is not streaming yet,
okay.
and actually is not it's not supposed to be released until it wasn't supposed to be released until Friday, and I was
Okay,
watching it
so you got
on
an early screening. Okay.
this.
So the other part of this was, um, so since I haven't been to the theaters, I don't know how when you say I would assume that you're supposed to be like checkerboard space, from everyone. But you said you're actually sitting side by side.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
That's fucked up. I would assume it'd be every other seat, and then the end. One person would have an end cap, and the person in front of them, up front and back, would be empty. But two seats, forward or back, would have someone. So it'd be every other seat. That's the way I would assume it would be done because that would give a safety net.
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
cough in front of you, there's no one directly in front of you. There's someone two seats down. That's that would be the ideal. Um, yeah, so I think that's weird. That's set up that way, and because you're forced to sit next to someone, you should have just bought two seats. And then,
Yeah. I mean, and the thing too is like, I brought a friend with me, and he was sitting next to me, and he didn't have his mask on. And I was just kind of like, well, I'm not gonna, and she's not gonna reach over and go, "Hey, you put your mask on too," But like, to her
she wasn't
credit,
rude about it though, right? So
no, she just asked, and I'm not gonna be a dick because that ruins the movie for both of us, and it's not that big of a deal, and all that stuff. But I was just kind of like, but I mean, it was like not actually super comfortable for me to sit there and watch the movie with the mask on. Uh, it's not, and I paid for this movie and all this stuff. And, if you're that worried about it, lady, maybe just stay home and skip this one or wait till it comes out, and I just, I mean, and so, but I do feel both ways about it. I do feel like, well, you know,
I can see the argument. The safety net for you is to make sure to bring more snacks, so you're always
that's,
constantly
that's
eating from
immediately
start to finish.
That's the first thing I thought. Is like, I just shouldn't have put the fucking popcorn down. I just kept pretending that I was eating popcorn the whole
And
time.
then when they say excuse me, make sure to just the moment they say excuse me, just pull it out and put it in your mouth and go as you look at them. When you go, and then you're like, "Can you put your mask on?" I'm like, You know, and then they can't say shit. But that means you have to bring enough snacks. So next time, just bring a whole bag of Twizzlers, and then just constantly have it dangling from your mouth the entire time, like, and then next time, just always have one in dangling, always at all times.
Well,
Make
yeah.
it your Lolita, lollipop.
Whoa. Okay.
Just turn to you, go,
Oh yeah.
raise an eyebrow or something. Be like. Give him a once over up and down. Be like, I don't know.
I'm gonna cut this.
Then
I'm just gonna cut everything from Lolita.
Then watch him just turn away and not look at you.
I'm cutting
Or the moment
I'm cutting everything from Lolita on.
No, you're not.
And we're back.
Okay, and then you're gonna then you put on your mask, and then you just start coughing. Just do not stop coughing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's one of those things where it's just like, man, what the fuck do we do now? But like,
yeah,
it's
a weird situation for the movies.
It took me like 5 minutes to get used to like wearing the mask while I watched the movie. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. It was just kind of a thing that happened, and I don't know. Just wanted to talk about it.
That's why you need to get the Reisner mask that they showed off at CES with all the RGB on it, so it can you just have it going and be like, it's just my mask. I'm just trying to be good, and then but those masks actually don't work. That has been debunked recently. The filters are the correct grade, but the mask itself as a whole is not certified.
It's not like K95 or whatever.
I forget what the certification, but the filters are the correct filter, but the actual mask isn't done up properly. I forgot I saw on a different news report, but a female streamer, or like, she took apart the mask and looked at all herself, and she's like, no, this, in order for it to be rated as, or what they're advertising, this doesn't meet the standard, so it's actually false advertising.
Well, I mean, like, half of everything is false advertising.
Yeah, for sure. But when you talk about health and standards,
like, how much does that mask cost? Like $100 or something like that?
If it's Razer, at least, right? I thought it was equal parts stupid and smart. Yeah, I like the fact that the front was clear, so you can actually see the person's mouth as they talk.
Sounds weird.
It's just one of those, like, that's neat, but at the same time, the ventilation they're supposed to be kicked in fans, so therefore it helps with the fog, because, or else you just fogging up the front little lens. I'm like, yeah, I don't really necessarily want people to see my mouth move when I have a mask like that. But then again, you're drawing attention to yourself with RGB, so you want people to see what you have. So you can still be eating your Twizzlers while you have your mask on, and people can see that.
Yeah.
Blowing bubbles and, like, chewing gum.
So I remember looking up the price, and I forgot what it was, but I remember thinking that's too expensive for a joke. Because that, like, $100 is like, okay, I could wear this, it'd be funny, I could get away with it. I didn't really know that it wasn't like up to code or whatever, but you could get away with it, walking into restaurants or whatever, nobody would give a shit. But it would be funny, good joke, blah, blah, blah. Hang it on your wall, and in 10 years, people are like, oh, look at the shit they were doing during COVID. But then I was like, I saw the price for whatever it was, and I was like, no, I'm not doing that. But
yeah. I typed in Google real quick, and the first thing, one of the drop downs popped up was $100, but I then clicked on an article and it didn't show nothing, so I have no idea.
Weird. Well, the finish up to this story is that, so that was on Wednesday. Well, on Friday no, that wasn't it. Not Friday. On Thursday afternoon. So the next day, Thursday afternoon, I randomly started to get like achy and chills. And I was like, I think it was really more of manifesting like a headache at first. And I was like, I don't really feel good, but it was like 2 hours before the end of work. And I was like, I don't feel good, but I mean, it's probably just because I'm tired. And then like about 8:00 that night, I was like, I am legitimately getting like chills, and I don't feel good. I don't feel good at all. So I was like, damn it, that bitch was right. And I was like, fuck this. So I went and laid down about like 8:30 and just went to sleep. Woke up, not feeling 100%, but feeling a lot better. I was like, okay, I'm back. I don't know what the hell happened there, but I think she just cursed me or something.
I don't know. It's just one of the things that if I'm sitting next to someone, grant like I would prefer them to have the mask on. Like I said, if you're eating, then granted, that obviously that shouldn't, that should be fine. If you're at a restaurant, for example, there should be spacing. At the theater, you'd think there'd be spacing. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that's so dumb. Uh, I don't know why you're sitting next to each other. Uh, you should show your Vax card and then get in. That's what they did for early concerts when they started kicking those up.
Yeah, they still have
Um,
that. I still have people doing that, especially like South, but no, Austin City Limits was a big concert they just had at the end of the summer, and yeah, they had Vax cards and I think COVID tests and stuff that you had to show.
Okay, so the Zephyr, the Razer Zephyr is the name of the mask. The regular version was 100. The Zephyr Pro was 150.
Okay, okay, was the Pro the one that actually works, or do they both
Uh,
just
I
have
I
more
don't
lights
know.
on it?
It's like because
It
I
just
think it
has
was the
more
Zephyr
lights
that
on
one
it.
that they debunked. But I wouldn't be surprised if the Pro didn't work either. I mean,
Yeah.
it's I don't know. I use Razer products, but like at the same time, it's I don't have any brand loyalty. So it was expensive, but it's I use the wireless stuff, and that's what I wanted, and it does its job real well. So I can't complain. But that's the only products I use by Razer. So like I just the idea of having a mask like that, uh, I don't know, it just irritates me. There's something about it that's just cringeworthy. Unless if you're cosplaying for like Watch Dogs or something like, then that's really fucking cool.
I think it's
But other
just a
than that, that's
pure.
it.
I think it's just a pure joke. I think it's just awesome as a joke. Just to be like, man, look at this fucking thing. And when I'm a big time streamer and worth millions of dollars, I'll definitely have like two of those.
You get
But
the Atari speaker hat while you're at it, right?
yeah, I'll do that. But
Atari made
re-
that baseball cap or something like that with speakers in it. So
but really, I mean, like Razer sucks. So I'll wait for like the Corsair, maybe the Logitech one to come out, and then I'll buy that mask because it'll be more ergonomic. Speaking of the movies, I have been to them a couple times, and I'm going to talk about one real quick, and then we'll get on to something a little bit. I can talk about a little bit more in depth. The first movie I want to talk about is a little movie you may have heard of called Spider-Man. This is the wrong one. I grabbed the wrong one. Fuck this. I'll figure it out later. I'll edit this in post. So I watched. No, this is right. This is right.
I thought you had maybe a different
There's
graphic. That's why.
Homecoming, and then there's Far From Home, and this is, and then okay. So
No way. Yeah.
I'm
Yep.
correct. Okay, I'm correct.
I just assumed you had a still of
I
Tom
never
Holland or
doubted
something like that.
myself for a second. So I saw Spider-Man No Way Home a little while ago. I heard this movie was good. I heard it was like amazingly great and stuff. And as of like a week or so ago, I don't know if it's holding, but it did have the highest Rotten Tomatoes score of any Marvel movie at
Okay.
93%, even above like Endgame or whatever one was the next highest at like 90%. And I was like, dang, okay, whatever. I don't really go by Rotten Tomatoes scores because it's whatever, dog. But my good friend, he made a point to like skip a gathering of friends to go see this movie, and he made a point to tell everybody that he was doing that. And so I asked him, and I was like, "Why did you do that?" And he was like, "Dude, this movie, I couldn't have it spoiled for me. Like this movie was so good." And I was like, "Really?" And he's like, "I just he couldn't say anything about it." And he was like, "Jude, you just need to go see it like as soon as possible." And I was like, "Okay." So I'll go see it on
Did you see
Sunday.
the others?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So, so that's kind of the thing is like, I'm glad you asked that because the first one I really liked, and then
Yeah, that's really good.
Far From Home, I was like, okay, it's good,
Far From
but
Home was okay, but I think it was trying to do too much, and like it was really neat doing some of the deep fake stuff. I thought that was really kind of like it's topical, slightly ahead of its time or it's relevant to our times, but it's one of those things that due to COVID, like it'll be more relevant in the near future with the
oh
deep
yeah,
fakes, and so I thought that was really really neat. But a lot of the side stuff was just uh yeah, like I said, it wasn't as good as the first, but
Yeah,
it was still a decent movie. It wasn't like it's a bad movie, but
yeah,
um,
it was definitely like a sophomore slump there. Like it just didn't quite have the same direction. It was good. It just something about it, like it just wasn't all the way there. So I was kind of expecting that from this, honestly. And then other people raving about it, and I went to go see it, and then I kind of like, and I had seen some spoilers that I didn't really realize were spoilers. I'm not going to go into what they were, but once I got to, the first quarter or so of it is like sort of regular intro to this, what we're doing here, setup. Um, and then, some stuff happens, and I was like, oh, okay. So that's what they're doing with this. And I was like, that's what's happening here. Maybe. And then more happens. And I was like, okay, so that's what they're doing here. And then even more happens. Like, okay, here we go. This is awesome. This is amazing. And so I'm not going to talk about this movie really much anymore because I can't say anything about it because to do so would spoil it. That's also why I picked this graphic. So if you're listening and you're not watching, this graphic is just a straight up thing, a screenshot of the words Spider-Man No Way Home. There's no pictures on it. There's nothing like that because every picture I found had, you could angle it out or whatever, but you could tell there was a little bit of a spoiler there. Anyway, it's a well-crafted movie. It hit me right in the feels a bunch of times, and I loved the heck out of it. And Joe, you got to go see it as soon as you can. Is all I'm gonna say.
yeah, I'm luckily I don't do a lot of social media, so I've stayed spoiler free, and I do want to see it. That's I do like the Tom Holland Spider-Man.
Oh, he's good.
They're probably the best run of all of them so far. Uh, I actually skipped the Garfield ones,
Okay,
um,
they
and
they had good points, but like the villain stuff, I didn't think was very well done.
okay. Yeah, so I want to see it. I did watch a Marvel movie over this time too, so when it gets around to me, I'll I can talk about what I watched. But yeah, totally. Especially with your recommendation, because yeah, there's a lot of I knew going into it, I knew a lot of the fan theories because a buddy of mine, he watched a lot of those videos, YouTube videos where people break down any little thing or go through all the hypotheticals of it could be this and it could be tied to this and that. And so usually talking with that buddy, I get a good insight of the greater expanded universe or like the different timelines and this and that. And I'm like, okay, that's really cool to know because otherwise a lot of that stuff I just have no clue. So yeah, I'll try my best to see it, but I ain't going to the theaters.
Yeah,
It's not even well that and the fact
somebody
that I'd
might.
have to pay. For me, I would have to then find a babysitter.
Oh
So it'd be
yeah,
like, and that's like $20 an hour. I'm like, I'm
just
not going to spend $60 on a babysitter just and then the movie theaters on itself. I'm like, nah, I'll wait till it comes to streaming and then I'll buy it right away.
yeah, just get your new kid or just get your old kid to babysit your new kid. That's how it works,
I mean,
right?
for the price of daycare, you're looking at around these parts, $300 to $400, like a week. So
Oh
I thought
jeez.
about it. I'm like, dude, I could just rent an apartment and just baby proof it, right? And then just put a pile of snacks in the corner and just be like, have at it, kid. I'll come back for you in like 10 hours.
That is incredible, dude. That is so much money. Wow. I mean, that's wild. But yeah, that hurts me in my heart. Um, so, uh,
No, of course,
yeah,
I'm not gonna leave my kid in an apartment by themselves.
it's fine. It'll
Don't
be.
call child services.
You just blow out the pilot lights. It's fine. That's all you got to do, man. Duct tape everything, all the sharp objects, just duct tape them. But yeah, so this movie was good. So yeah, I'm excited about it and I enjoyed it a lot. But the movie I can talk about is another movie called Belle. So this is a new anime movie that just came out. Like I was saying earlier, it's supposed to come out on Friday the 14th, but I got a chance to see it on Wednesday the 12th for an early showing, which kind of just happened to stumble upon. And I was like, oh, what's this? Oh, there's an early showing. Holy crap. So I jumped on that. I forget the director's name, but he's the same
It's
guy.
Mamoru
Mamoru, yeah.
Hosoda. Yeah, he's so the Mamoru Hosoda, who I think he's done Ghibli stuff, like he's worked for them in the past, but uh, his stuff is really good. Things that people would know is for me, he did the first U.S. Digimon movie, which is like two parts actually, which was great because it introduced me to Fatboy Slim. Uh,
Whoa.
that
Whoa.
soundtrack was really dope actually.
Okay.
Then he came out with his really big hit was The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. Is fucking amazing, like awesome movie. I haven't seen it for a long time, so I'm not sure how well it holds up, but it was super awesome at the time. And then after that, he hit it out of the park with Summer Wars. Summer Wars. That one has a lot. This one kind of connects with Digimon and kind of connects with Bella, which is essentially the whole connecting cyber like to this one. Is Summer Wars is about essentially an online social network, kind of like the metaverse. But you create your avatar and stuff, and the avatars, there's a sentient like AI, if I remember correctly, and it's the people versus the machine. It's really good. Just give that a shot. After that, he came out with Wolf and Wolf Children, which is a really sweet just family thing. Mom has two half wolf cub babies essentially. And it's her living in the country trying to raise these children who are half beast, half human. After that was A Boy and the Beast, which I did not get to see, but that one, a lot of people like that when we were in Japan. That actually came out when we were there. And 2015. You might have left when that, I can't remember anymore.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think I would have been gone by
And
then.
then they have Mirai. Mirai is actually on Netflix. So
Oh,
the
okay.
one, so the last movie he made in 2018, that's actually on Netflix. So if you want to give that a shot, that one's I haven't actually got it's on my list. I didn't even realize it was him. I just saw the trailer, and I'm like, okay, I'll add it to my list. And then when you mentioned seeing Belle, I'm like, all right, well, let me look. I'm like, oh, dude, it's him. Okay, cool. Because I've been out of the loop for a while.
So,
So yeah,
so it
super good
sounds like you
director.
really
I'm
like this
glad. And so
director a
tell me
lot.
about this. Yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds like you really like this director quite a bit.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Well, I think The Girl Who Leapt Through Time was one that got nominated for like best animated feature. I know one of his films, at least one of his films has been nominated for that. And I hadn't have heard of The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, haven't seen it. Do you think that would be a good place for me to start after this with watching his
Yes.
movies?
I honestly go with Digimon, but I actually really like Digimon.
Like it?
It's
Okay.
an old school, like I have a soft spot in my heart for that series. But Girl Who Leapt Through Time, 2006. Watch that. Watch Summer Wars after. Summer Wars is really good. I have a hankering since you mentioned going to see Bella. I've had the hankering to rewatch Summer Wars. And then because I never watched Boy and the Beast, I want to watch that one. But yeah,
Okay.
so totally, Girl Who Lived Through Time. Start with that.
Okay,
Um,
so I will
it's
go. I
yeah,
will go and watch that because I have heard it's good, and also because I kind of want to give this director a little bit more of a fair chance because I really did not like this movie very much at all.
okay.
So and I really wanted to. I came in with like, okay, yeah, this is gonna be cool. So what this movie is, premise wise, is about is it's a kind of a modern take on the Beauty and the Beast story. So you kind of know that going in. It's the hint, I mean, the name in Japanese is like the Princess and the Dragon or something like that, and it's so, and then they named it Belle for I guess English audiences.
The
Um,
Dragon and the Freckled Princess.
yeah, that's it. That's it. The freckled princess. Yeah. Um,
Uh,
and so yeah, so the main character's name is Belle, and I guess the the premise beyond Beauty and the Beast is that there is this metaverse in the near future, and it's called U, and it is just the letter U, and it's on your phone, but then there's also these like a little bit larger kind of earbuds that go in your ear, and they don't really show you like how it really connects. They just kind of show you the real world, and then like the U. I call it the U-verse, but the U world or whatever. And the thing is about it though, is that this U-verse, the technology in it, is supposed to look at who you are and reveal your true strength, like reveal your true power. Um, and so like this girl is having kind of issues in her real life. She tries you, and then stuff happens, and she sort of becomes famous in you, and then the beast like comes out, and kind of like, and then sort of that narrative goes along, which, yeah, so I'll just leave it there. So you kind of, so I don't want to spoil it any more than that. It just becomes Beauty and the Beast in its own clever way in some ways. So the good parts about it is that the animation is pretty good in a lot of places. I think it looks really nice when they're in the real world. And then I think that when they go into the U-verse, well, I'll get to that in a second, but it looks really nice in the real world. The main character, I really like the main character. I feel like I identify with her. She's got, some good, she feels very human to me. And even like the character designs for the most part, I like, and a lot of the non-main characters, with a lot of the supporting cast, I really like, the design and the acting and stuff like that. I thought it was really, really good. And that's about as much as I can. And the music is also pretty good. This movie is highly musical. It is not a musical, but it has a lot of songs. It has a couple songs in it, is how I would categorize it. And the music is good, not great. It's good, but it's not like I really felt the need to go and listen to it again later. So
All right. I wanted to quick chime in.
oh yeah.
So, the film of his that was nominated was Mirai.
Oh,
Was
that was it.
nominated for Best Animated Feature Film 2019 by the Oscars. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Summer Wars, which came those both won Japan Academy Prize for Animation of the Year. So that was in 06 and in 09.
Okay.
They won for 07 and 2010 is when they won. So the Girl Who Lived Through Time and Summer Wars did win Japanese acclaim, and Mirai, which was the one on Netflix, so you can watch that easy enough. That one was the Oscar nominated, and yeah. So the it's the when it comes to these kind of retellings of old fables and such, I always have a hard time, like, I don't care is what it comes down to. I always feel like they do a bad job, and I'm like, why? Like, how many more times do I need to see like the Jungle Book or Tarzan or anything like that? It's just like those. I don't care about your version of Snow White, or something like that, because there's a lot of retellings when it comes to those type of things, and that is my number one. Like, yeah, like the moment I'm like, oh, it's a like they did the Little Mermaid. Studio Ghibli did their version of that, Poyo, I think it was,
Yeah.
but it's like more off the source material, not Disney princess version. But I'm like, I just didn't care. That was a big letdown for me. One of the first big letdowns by Studio Ghibli when that one came out. Granted, it wasn't Miyazaki, but it was like someone else. But I don't care. It's
I
just
thought it was
when you rehash an
Miyazaki.
old story. I just don't care.
Okay, I thought Ponyo was Miyazaki, but
It might have been. I thought it wasn't, but I honestly just I can't remember it. It's been so long. I just remember being really let down by it. And no, this director though, uh, Hosoda, he really does like this whole digital realm because once again, Digimon. At
oh,
one point,
I see. It comes
well,
full circle now.
well, see, the thing is, in that particular movie, there's also a bit where like essentially an egg's hatching in digital space, but like the people are connected and they're like chatting, and so like he essentially people are talking all, and this is like before, this is I guess MySpace era, you know,
Yeah.
before Facebook. And it's everyone's communicating, like, you know, chiming in in a chat room kind of situation. And those who are in the space can kind of see their texts pop up, and so at points like there's criticisms or encouragements, those are coming in and they can see that and hear that. Summer Wars, they have their own, you know, digital landscape, and that was I think it was called Oz. um,
Hmm.
and that one, like I said, those characters and that the whole concept of that was pretty neat. It was that was really enjoyable. So this director has you know, kind of has this motif in a couple of his films. So I'm like, well, maybe pulling a modern aesthetic with this digital aspect might be neat, but I'm like, I just don't care about Beauty and the Beast. So that's
I mean, like I definitely, whenever I kind of I'd rather I'd rather hear a new story, or at least I'd rather hear like, okay, so I'd rather see a movie, not know it was from Beauty and the Beast, and then like go, okay, yeah, I can see how there's a couple things that are drawn from it, but you took it and made it completely your own. I definitely prefer that. I can see too, though, why they're like, hey, we're going to put this out in America. Let's go for a classic story and try to make, you know, we want this to sell, you know, so, and we kind of have an idea that works with it. So we're going to go for it. I get that. I understand that as a studio that they kind of feel like they need to do that too, I guess. Um, so like, I do really want to go in and but watch, uh,
Mirai.
Mirai and The Girl Who Leapt Through Time, because I have heard of this director, and I have heard he's really good. But like the bad things about this movie, like the nothing in the Uverse is earned. Like as far as the story goes, like they tell you what happens and they don't really show you, hey, this is how the universe works. This is why good things are happening. This is why bad things are happening. The rules are not well defined. They're just sort of plopped in front of you. Um, the and they don't really feel real at all. The animation in the universe, it looks pretty, but it doesn't, and it looks very floaty. Nothing is grounded or tactile at all. It doesn't feel real. Maybe that's by design, but it also just it just feels annoying to me. It doesn't, it's not floaty in a good way. It just feels like it's floating off of the screen in kind of a bad way.
I want you to watch after you watch A Girl Who Lived Through Time. I want you to watch Summer Wars, and because that one has a more because of that whole digital realm. I'm curious about your take on that and comparing the two because I'm not going to get around watching Belle for a while.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm really curious what your thoughts on with the whole landscape and when you're comparing you know, to compare the two. Um, yeah, the only Beauty and the Beast that's worth it is was it the late '80s TV series Beauty and the Beast. The only Beast there is Ron Perlman, and you have Linda Hamilton from Terminator series. Yeah, that was the only as the TV series that ran for a couple of years.
So like
That's the worthwhile one.
speaking of old Beauty and the Beast, you know, renditions, there is a couple of homages to I think the 1991 Disney Beauty and the Beast. They do kind of they kind of like tip their hat to that, I think, in a couple places. I could be wrong, but that's what it felt like to me. And then or maybe they're just going more off the classic story and that I'm just not super familiar with. But anyway, so like a couple other things is that there's a little bit of uncreative reuse of animation. I only noticed one spot where I thought they could have reused like 90% of this little clip, but changed it just a little bit and made it feel like it's just not quite exactly the same. So I was a little bit like, okay, I see what, I mean, that was rare. It only happened once that I can definitely remember, but it definitely left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth because by then I was sort of starting to turn against the movie a little bit. And I was sort of starting to watch for things I didn't really care for. So that might be holding a little bit too, judging it a little too harshly. But the bad guy in this movie, he's not in it very much, and he is boring and generic. And he's supposed to be kind of boring and generic, but like not in a, but he's not like, they kind of make a tired joke with him and it's fine, but he's just not good, just not good character design. I didn't like it at all. And maybe he's not supposed to be the point of the movie, but should be something. I mean, he's definitely the antagonist or the embodiment of the antagonist. And I was just like, okay. So it was not as good as I kind of hoped it would be. Hopefully you'll get a chance to see it someday. And hopefully you'll have forgotten what I've said about it. So you can kind of go into it sort of fresh. But I would say you're definitely fine to not rush to see it. You can wait until it comes out. I don't know when it's going to come out, on streaming and stuff. I imagine it will eventually, but, I'd give this like, I don't know, like a 5 or 6 out of 10, somewhere in there if I had to rate it. But yeah, so that's pretty much all that I've been watching. But you're telling me that you've been watching some pretty cool stuff. So what have you been watching, Joe?
All right. So when my buddy came over for New Year's, I had him go ahead and he's never seen the new Power Rangers movie, the
Wait.
one that came out in 2017.
Yeah, okay, we'll go with this. Okay, go ahead.
That's what's on the docket, man. That's the top one. So yeah, the Power Rangers movie. He ended up. All right, this came out in a weird time. Yeah, so the long and short of it is I saw this on an airplane. There was a lot of family issues going on, and I'm flying back to Japan, and I am like, I don't know, like 4 or 5 scotches in, and I'm like,
Okay.
all right, I'm gonna watch this movie. This can't be any good, right? It has to be hot trash. There's just no way that it can be all right. And turned out it was actually way better than it had any right to be. I was just like, wait a minute. Maybe it was just the booze talking. So then, of course, I'm like, I tell my wife, I'm like, we got to watch this movie. I have to have your opinion on this because she grew like we grew up during the 90s where it was like the first Power Ranger movie was really good to us. Like we have great nostalgia factor for that. And I'm like, no, tell me what you think of this. I mean, it's like, I don't know, it's like a 70% good movie. The bad parts are all the villain portion, but like the actual characters and everything and the way they do things and make jokes about the previous series, like this is solid. And so, yeah, I ended up having, I had her watch it and she generally really liked it too. So that was kind of our takeaway from it is it's a decent movie. And if you like Power Rangers at all, like if you have any nostalgia for the original stuff, totally give this one a watch. It is a good popcorn film. And yeah, totally worth it. So essentially they do their own take. They change up, the roles a little bit, and they make sure to not necessarily race match the Rangers
With the colors.
yeah, so they actually make a joke about it. Alpha goes, they go like 5 kids, 5 colors, 5 colored kids, like and it's just like, oh, you actually did it. That's great. You made
You made racism cool.
So Billy, who was the Blue Ranger, who's the nerd. They make him a black kid. And so the Black Ranger ends up being an Asian. And so at one point he's just like their stones start glowing. He's like, I'm black, and he's like, what? He's like, yeah. It's just it's stupid, but it's good. The Red Ranger, watching it with a buddy like years removed now. The Red Ranger is actually the season 2 of, I think it's season 2 or 3 of Stranger Things. I think it's season 2. The new character that came into town. There's a new girl character.
Yeah.
Her brother,
Sounds
the
Billy or something like that, I think.
I don't remember. Season 2 of Stranger Things was not that memorable for me. The girl character is Max, because she would go by Mad Max on the arcade charts. I remember that.
Yeah.
But yeah, her brother, the douchebag with long hair. So that's actually the Red Ranger. I didn't realize that because I saw it before Strange Things ever came out. And then it's like, my buddy's like, dude, is that him? I'm like, dude, you're totally right. It is. Okay. And the Pink Ranger is the girl from the new Aladdin. She played the Jasmine from the new Aladdin live action.
Yeah, I do recognize. I do remember seeing her. Yeah.
And the villain is the female lead from Zack and something Make a Porno. Yeah. So I didn't realize that was her because they make up her to look nasty as hell.
Oh wow.
So this came out in 2017. Hollywood, for some reason, had a really big hard-on for making their female monster people like super wet and gross and like covered in garbage.
Okay.
So my examples of this are, I think 2017 might have been when Suicide Squad, or around the same time Suicide Squad came out. That really bad movie with Will Smith.
Yes, I remember that.
Was that the first one? That was Suicide Squad? Okay. Yeah. So they had their villainous, that bland witch lady. You have Rita Repulsive here, so their character designs are like very scantily clad, but like sharp angles, and it looks like they're trying to do their own version of Witchblade, the old comic. I think it was Image Comics.
Yeah, I remember Witchblade.
Yeah, so it's kind of like that, but like, so the Power Rangers movie here is, essentially it's the Breakfast Club. The Breakfast Club meets Rita Repulsa, who then her bits are like all horror bits. Like she's literally ripping people's teeth out and murdering them for gold, and she's all like, she's Golem for gold. It's really her. The whole scenes with her, and it just kind of ruined the whole movie, unfortunately. It's not her fault. It's complete the directing style. So you go like, they're trying to go for an overpowering, menacing thing, but like the main kids, at least Billy, Jason, and Trini, like the Pink, Red, and Blue Ranger, they're all in detention together. That is exactly how it is. And so because they're in, that's, so it's exactly Breakfast Club. And that's their character interactions, the way they discover their powers and all this other stuff. That's actually not bad. But yeah, once again, just all the villain parts make it fall flat. The other movie that came out during the same time as this was The Mummy. That was in 2017. The Tom Cruise one that killed their
I remember. I saw that too.
The monster movie franchise that they were trying to do, like they were doing the Monster MCU or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that version of The Mummy was also equally gross and that kind of art style. So for some reason, like Hollywood was really hot on that, and obviously that didn't do anyone any favors because none of those movies got like sequels.
Yeah, that was. I remember Tom Cruise coming on like the Tonight Show or something and talking about how, I think it was Universal, was because I think Universal.
Yeah, Universal. Yep, that's exactly it.
Universal owns all of those old like ideas like Wolfman and the Mummy and Dr. Jekyll, like they, and like the swamp monster, or the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Swamp. Yeah, and Dracula and stuff
like that. And so they were going to try to make their own MCU out of those, and it's like, oh yeah, it's not what the MCU really is, guys. but
Yeah, it
nice
was
try.
really bad, really boring. But no, so that was their character. You know, they had to completely scrap Suicide Squad and reboot that one. You know,
Well,
but for
I
their
mean, that's Warner Brothers, and that's a different problem, I think.
no, but it was just Hollywood in general at the time had the idea of let's make nasty looking female like enemies,
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
which
okay.
which figures so that was yeah, it was like I said, that was the disappointing part of Power Rangers. But if you like anything Power Rangers, like I said, this is about I'd say 70% good movie.
Yeah, yeah.
You
See,
know,
like I started to watch this one time and got sidetracked and jumped off of it, but I have heard that this is a pretty good movie. Like, I've heard like it's better than it has any right to be, and a pretty competent film. So I might check this out sometime if I am a little bit bored or something. It seems like it'd be like a fun time.
I totally like I said, it's worth a watch, especially find a drinking game to it. You know,
Okay,
make a mini game out of it or something.
that could be fun. Yeah,
Yeah, it's like I would totally recommend that for that. But all right, so yeah, that's we watched that for New Year's.
that's cool. That's cool.
And yeah, so we had a good time with that. And so other than that, I've been catching up on Castlevania on Netflix. The animated series. I had watched season 1 and 2 a while back, and then I just hadn't got around to ever watching season 3. Next thing I knew, there was a season 4 out. I'm like, oh man, okay. And having to be at home with my kid during COVID, I was just like, all right, well, in the evenings when he ends up going to bed, I'm too tired to actually do anything. I was just like, I'm exhausted from hanging out with him for like 18 hours a day, and I'm like, all right, I need to watch something that I'd really I want to that keeps my attention, but also at the same time, I don't have to give 100% of it. Like I don't want something too melodrama or something. And this fit that bill really good, actually. So for those of you who don't know, Castlevania, the old video game franchise, Netflix made a really good animated series out of it. Season 1 is like 4 episodes long, and it's like Dracula backstory. Season 2 takes place with essentially, if anyone remembers Rondo of Blood or the beginning of Symphony of the Night, where you play as Richter Belmont. Um, Essentially, there's three people, Alucard and two others, and it's or I'm sorry, Richard Belmont. But yeah, essentially, you're playing those three characters, or those three characters are represented on TV, and they fight Dracula. Essentially, I'm not going to spoil anything else. The season 3 was also pretty solid. The ending kind of meh. But we're into season 4 now, and I'm curious where it goes. But honestly, the first 2 seasons are pretty solid. I really recommend them, especially since season 1 was only a 4 episode pilot. Essentially, it was just like it felt so experimental because it came out in 2017, and that was when Netflix was still really hot on we're going to do 2 seasons and then we're going to bury everything. It's like
Yeah.
uh, because they did that with Marco Polo, and I was super bummed because Marco Polo was super good for action fight scenes. Um, but yeah, it's just they did stuff like that. So we're like, oh yeah, we'll never see another season, and they came out with a season 3, which was like, uh, it's worth it. It's worth a watch. I was happy I spent my time with it, and I'm gonna finish this out eventually, hopefully in the next week or two. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all about that.
Like I watched a couple episodes of or maybe just the first episode of the first season back when it came out. And I really wasn't into it that much. But yeah, it was like now I might be more inclined to jump back in because there's more of it. But I mean, people were saying it was good back then. I think people were thinking that it was a a movie that they had decided to split up. That was what was guessed at the time. But I don't know. Maybe
I can
um,
see the first season being that because it's only 4 episodes.
yeah.
At the same time, it doesn't hurt it either way. Anime has been doing it forever, where they do something like an OVA and a movie all, and it'll be almost the same thing. They did that with I'm trying to remember now. It was Gundam Wing. Gundam Wing was a 3 episode OVA or something like that, or a one movie, and it was a 3 or 4 episodes. And essentially, the only difference was a handful of scenes that were in the TV episodes because it was slightly longer runtime. But honestly, you didn't miss anything. So having it broken up this way, I think it's just easier for the common person. No one has you don't have to be like, I'm going to dedicate an hour and a half to 2 hours on something. When you have it broken up like that, it makes it a lot nicer.
Yeah.
So yeah, totally
Cool.
give it a shot. Honestly, one story arc finishes from well, each one has its own story arc essentially. So season 1 is just Dracula himself for the most part, and then season 2 is like the conclusion of that Alucard's, and Dracula's arc, and season 3 is kind of moves on from there. Yeah, if you guys got the time, it's really like it's a simple watch. Granted, it's TV MA, so
Yeah.
yeah. It's way that's what's caught. I think that's what caught everyone by surprise. I'm like, oh wow, you went with gore, and like in the first couple episodes, he's just murders in a whole town because they deserved it.
Yeah. I mean, I do know
They
it
make
is.
Dracula a sympathetic character,
I do
so
know it is pretty. It's pretty adult, but a lot of people do really like it a lot. It is pretty popular, but yeah, that's pretty cool. So, like, what else have you been watching?
all right. So I got around to watching the Marvel movie I watched was Eternals. I got around to watching it because it finally dropped last Wednesday on Disney Plus, and I had zero interest in watching this.
Oh, it's on
Like
Disney Plus
anything,
now. Okay, wow.
yeah. So that's kind of why I watched it. Is like the whole this run of things, Black Widow and like these series of movies, I just don't care. With the
Mm,
exception of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's interesting, but a lot of the extra stuff is just like you're pulling out like your C tier listing, and worse essentially. So I'm gonna preface this with I know nothing about the Eternals. Like going into it, not a darn thing. I knew loose connections between that and uh there was like Thanos has a connection to the Eternals being like not a real Eternal or something like that. And then there was Loki. Loki has the TV series that they did has a connection with like the whole Eternal Celestial to a certain point. Um, that's but once again, this is all more or less connections from my friend who kind of broke it down for me, and I'm like my eyes kind of glaze over, and I'm like I'm legitimately interested, but I just can't follow you because it's going over my head. So when coming to watching this, Eternals, uh, I'm not going to try to spoil this for anyone who wants to watch it. But they have a big cast, and this movie's flipping long. It's like 2.5 hours long.
wow.
Um, I think this movie's way too damn long, but I'm going to also correct myself by saying it is well paced for this movie. I think you can't really, it's hard to do it shorter because you have such a big cast. There's like something like, was it 9 or 10 different people, like something like that in the crew. And so you spend enough time kind of not with everyone individually, but you're getting broad strokes and they're jumping through time. Because essentially these beings in the Eternals come to Earth to help watch over us from like like way in the BC. They help raise civilization from sticks and stones. And I this movie's just kind of meh all the way through. I mean, it's not a bad movie, but it's
That's
just okay.
that's what I've heard. Is it's just
It's
like
like Shang-Chi. I mean, Shang-Chi at least tried to be real funny. This one was tried to be a little more serious, but I'm like the thing happens and you're like, that dude's the bad guy. I'm not even like the very first thing happened. I'm like, that dude is totally bad guy. Like there is no hiding it. Like if you've seen any handful of movies, like it's and then towards the end, oh, he's the bad guy. I'm like, yeah, no shit. Like of course he's the bad guy.
I know
uh,
because I've seen a movie before.
yeah, it's just like all right. So how do I explain this? This movie goes uh celestials are the celestial created is the god essentially. He created the universe, and
Okay.
that's the opening bit. Like essentially created everything, and Eternals are supposed to hunt down like after a while like a weird variant deviant as they call them. Deviants come up. Not variants because that's in Loki, I'm pretty sure, but a deviant, which is an evil entity meant to devour and eat everything. So that's why they made the celestial made the Eternals to combat them and to help. And that's why they come to different planets and they come to help save the local people. That's the why they're there. And so as they're hunting the deviants on Earth, they progress all the way from sticks and stones to all the way to modern times. But uh, yeah, essentially like the Mayans and stuff like that. You wonder why civilizations disappear, and they kind of touch on the different civilizations that abruptly just vanished. Uh, so yeah, it has such a large cast, and it feels like someone hit a checkbox like we have to have this is the Power Ranger thing. We have to have a different colored, different race, different. We have to have all the diversity checkbox from start to finish. You have to have, yeah. It's just like
I mean, they
I
have every
don't
color of
understand.
the rainbow there in that in the screenshot that I'm looking at.
Yeah, so once again, this is something that
Just
I
fine.
don't know the comics, so I can't say if how close this is to source material. Part of my brain's like, no, dude, you're just like maybe some of it's correct, but the other part of it is just Hollywood uh recoloring it for the sake of being the most
Politically
broad
correct.
strokes.
Yeah.
Yeah, politically not just politically correct, but also just inclusive. And I'm like, I feel like when they ham fist things like that, once again, I could be talking about my ass. That's why I don't try to criticize it too much because it could be part of the original source. But I just remember like around 2010, a lot of the comic books started retconning a lot of the old superheroes, being like, this person is now gay, or now this
Mhm.
no, well, psych, like I think Iceman's gay, and then like a year later, like no, he's actually bi, and then it's just like make up your mind. I don't care. Just stick to one thing and make it so. Um,
Yeah.
and but they always make a. I feel I understand. Well, it's one of those things that maybe because you want the representation, so therefore you go out of your way to try to point it out. But I also feel it's weird when they try to make an extra effort, being uh, like in movies and in media where like they go extra hard on that emphasis of me and my husband, and like I'm like, okay. I mean, you can. I feel like they're just shot. They're kind of like it's trying to slap you in the face with it, being like, "See, we're inclusive." I'm like, dude, you could just make it, just show it, and not necessarily. But it's like, no, no, we have to show that's a lesbian couple. Those women have to kiss in front of the screen because that proves it, and plus, it makes young adolescents horny, and it's just like I don't know. It just feels really forced, and so in this
Yeah,
case,
it's kind of like that, like the end of that second episode of Comey Can't Communicate. Whenever they introduce the non-binary friend, and then it's like, okay, that's cool. Okay, so we did that, and then they do that pretty well. But then the end of the episode, the dismount is like they have somebody come up and kind of like hit on them, and it becomes very awkward because they're like, isn't it weird that like they're a them, but this person thinks that they're a she, and it's weird, and so right, it's like really awkward and funny, right, and you're just like, no, don't do that. Just you had it good, but then on the dismount you fucked it up, and now it's like awkward. Don't do that. Just if you want it to be normalized, I guess, then just let it be normal.
yeah, and I just they had I don't know, it's like their powers, even just the way the Eternals are. It's like a really bad version. It's like a knockoff version of the Justice League.
Yeah.
So you have the Flash, essentially, um, and so I'm not sure how the original is, but she can't speak, so she knows sign language, which I'm like, interesting, how she knows sign language. So I guess she birthed sign language into the human race. Um,
I don't know. Okay.
but whatever language of like, but then she would speak a certain type of language, but they start out with different eras, and they just automatically know all the languages, I guess, or they made the languages. Who knows?
Oh,
um
okay.
it would have been neater if, like, because everyone's a different race pretty much, that if they all went to the four corners of the world and essentially populated that, if they all, if they were the grandfathers, or the ancients of those civilizations, and that's why our races are the way they are. But no, it's just like they hung out together in a club, and in one group they stayed in a city for a while, they purged the evil, and they move on to a new city in the next era. And it's just like, okay, the Asian that they got, He's Korean, so yay, Korean representation. But he looks like Wong. He looks like Doctor Strange's Wong. Because at first you're like, dude, is that Wong? Like,
He
like,
does
but
look like him. I was like, is that him? No, it's not him.
it's Dong Kim. It's Dong, but they call him just Don for the Hollywood sake or whatever.
Okay.
His new movie posters. Plus, Americans were probably read it as dong, like dongle, and like insulting. So like, no, it's is it Kim or yeah? I'm gonna fuck up. Watch it be a Lee or something. So my bad for his name that I just butchered.
You're
But
a bad.
like I said, he just looked like Wong, and I was just like, I was like, you couldn't pick a different Asian archetype. I mean, I'm glad if you went Korean, I'm glad you didn't go K-pop though. That would have made me feel upset.
That
But they
would
did
have
have to
been
throw
so.
BTS in there. I'm like, God damn it.
That would have been current. That would have been fantastic and current.
Well, yeah, well, I mean, they literally play a song from BTS, and they make reference to them by name or by band,
Wow.
by the Kumali Kumal I can't pronounce his name, the Indian actor who
Nanjiani or something like that.
yeah, he got really ripped for this.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
did.
so
He did.
his superpowers is finger guns. He literally goes pew pew pew,
Yeah,
and
with
I'm like,
this.
what? The
Oh,
main hero is Superman without the cape. He has laser eyes, super strength. He flies. I'm like, it's literally Superman. I'm like, dude, what's with these? Like I said, it was a disappointment for me.
it
Like I
just
said,
sounds
it'd be
really
different if I knew
generic.
this.
Just sounds like really generic and just like just so much stuff spread out. Just so much
It's a
stuff
long
packed into a
movie.
little.
Like I said, it's a long movie for me. If I knew, like I said, if I was more invested into the comics, maybe I'm like, dude, they did it justice. But I can't really say.
I mean, like,
And I
how do
haven't
you?
bothered looking at.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, I haven't looked at any of the Metacritic scores or anything like that, so I honestly don't know how it fared as far as fans go. Um,
I'm
I just, like I
pretty
said, I
sure
went into
it's.
this completely blind.
I'm pretty sure it's dismal. I'm pretty sure it's like really bad. I can't remember, but I do remember thinking like, "Whoa, that's horrible." It might be one of the. I think it's in the bottom like 5 or so worst reviewed Marvel movies. I think Iron Man 2 is somewhere in there, and Thor 2
Oh,
or something like that.
yeah.
Are pretty far down,
So
but yeah, to me, I was like, I have no interest in watching this, especially after that first trailer. It was like people then. I remember when that first trailer came out, it was like, this is gonna be boring. This is gonna be really boring. But yeah,
well, I mean, one of the main female leads, I I'm trying to remember her name now. Yeah, Selma Hayek. She's from Desperado. That's what I grew up watching her in.
oh yeah, I bet she was.
I mean, I she's in Dogma and like Once Upon a Time in Mexico. So like, but yeah, it's just like she plays one of the important, like she's the alpha or whatever. She's like the head Eternal Prime or something like that.
She's
And
a
you have Angelina
transformer.
Jolie. What?
She's a
Yeah.
transformer.
um yeah, so like they they even have I think it was Jon Snow as a, but not as an Eternal, but he's a human. And he's stay around for the little stinger at the end, and they do a thing with him, and I'm like, cool, no idea. Like, it's one of the things that I would have to watch a YouTube thing for someone to explain how exciting this is, but I'm like, I watched it because I saw Loki, and I knew Loki was supposed to have some tie into it, and I'm like, all right, let me just do this, and it was free because it was on Disney Plus, and it wasn't a waste of time. It just wasn't a great time. Uh,
Well, at least it was on Disney Plus, so you didn't have to spend any extra money on it.
yeah, or sit next to people who open mouth breathers over.
Who just
Yeah.
yeah who demand that you put your mask on, um, or
Okay,
people who
so then,
don't put their mask on. Everybody's the enemy. Okay,
all right.
so that's
Well,
pretty
after
cool.
Eternals,
Oh yeah, go ahead.
I'm just going fucking hard pivot, man.
Pivot now. All right, go ahead.
All right, so I rewatched It Man 1 and 2, especially during my son's uh constant berate of explosions. He ended up, so as sometime in the middle of the night, I'm like, dude, I need to watch something, have something on so I can kind of stay awake. And I really like Ip Man. Donnie Yen, who's the main character, he is a great martial artist. I thoroughly love him as a martial artist. He's uh he's like the current Jet Li of our era, of this current timeline. Because any good movie with martial arts in it, it's like, if he's in it, it's totally worth a watch. Is what is my general rule. Like, though I think he's in that new he was in that remake of was it Crouching Tiger? So I'll never see that.
I'll never forgive that movie.
Watch a previous episode for my hate on that. But yeah, so anyways, Ip Man, for those who don't know, is he's the was it the Wu Chun school founder of martial arts? Essentially, the Bruce Lee's master. So during World War II, or prior to World War II, he was well noted to being a great martial arts master in his town. But when Japan came over and occupied China, his town got taken over, and this is the story based on him and his time during that occupation. So around the same time, there was also another movie called Grandmaster, which is another story about Ip Man. So one is Ip Man, the other one is Grandmaster. The reason why he's called Grandmaster is because afterwards he was noted as Grandmaster is his title as a champion martial artist. Just well respected, well renowned. And I forget how this works now. I think Ip Man was produced by Hong Kong and tells a general story, but from a neutral Hong Kong perspective. While I think it was Grandmaster. Now I could have this completely backwards, but Grandmaster was a Chinese mainland produced film, so therefore it has him painted in a different light as more of the Chinese like savior, not or like they hero promote him more for that aspect. So it was really weird that they had two movies come out and they of the same guy around the same time, but it was directed very differently. And they both gotten sequels, if I remember correctly. I think Grandmaster also got a sequel, but Ip Man has now produced 4 films. I hadn't seen all 4 yet. In fact, I hadn't gotten around to seeing the full second film, and that's why I ended up watching both of these at like, I don't know, sometime in like between after midnight and like 5 a.m. On 2 separate nights. And they're really good. The first film is completely in Cantonese, so you have to do the subtitles. But the action scenes are just excellent, well choreographed, and it's really solid. The second movie, you do have English if you want it, and it is some good bad English. It is a very I think it's like these movies came out. I think the first one came out in 2008, maybe.
Oh wait, sounds right. Yeah.
Yeah. So so our ability to dub was capable.
Yeah,
A lot of anime have gotten better around that time, or before that even. But this is it was nostalgic on like how bad it sounded, which made me kind of really like it. It was just like it's not a great performance for English, but at the same time, I'm also really delirious from the lack of sleep I've had, and I'm like, this is great. I'm okay with this. And the fight scenes are also super awesome still. So yeah, and then there's 3. So all the Ip Man films are all on Netflix. So 3 is when they introduce Bruce Lee, because once again, Bruce Lee's master, and they so his whole martial arts is, it's really interesting to see the story about this guy. Granted, it's all dramatized, but there is a modicum of truth, at least in the first film, and a little bit of the second one. I don't know exactly how much they continue to be like grounded. Something tells me as the series probably went on and as they made more money, they really amped up the flair, because I felt that way in the second one. Like, I feel that like this has to be like 50% BS.
So wait, so have you seen 3?
No, I haven't. I think 3 is what has Mike Tyson in it.
Yeah.
Or is that 4?
I think it's 3. Oh man, yeah. I watched these movies with my dad. I'd seen Ip Man, and I think I'd seen, but I don't think I'd ever seen Ip Man 2. But I showed my dad Ip Man 1. He's like, "Oh, this is so cool. Let's watch IP Man." And I was like, I know it's hard, but it's Ip Man." And he's like, "Yeah, IP Man." And so we we watched that and the second one, and we kind of just went through it and watched all four of them, kind of pretty much back to back, night over night. And that was a nice that was a nice experience. I was glad to show him those, but like I think three is probably the one of the weaker ones, and then the fourth one, they close it out pretty good. But there's always good fighting in it throughout. It's pretty good. It's good shit.
So so with I really like I said once again I really like Donnie Yen. One of the first things I've ever saw him in was it was Seven Swords. It was just it was like this was just one of those things that came out on DVD, and I was I think it was on basic training still, and I'm like it was at the PX. I'm like an Asian film that looked like like good kung fu action. Sure, I'll give it a shot. And it was all right. But then after that, uh, the one of my favorite films of all time when it comes to a Chinese martial arts film, especially a modern one, especially is U.S. name or the Western name was Killzone.
Hmm.
SPL was the original title, or it was I can't pronounce it because I can't speak Chinese, but it's like dot polong or something like that. It's SAATPOLONG. So SPL are the abbreviation, and this is just a modern gritty like uh cops undercover cop goes into the mob essentially, and Sammo Hyung is in it. And so for those who don't know who Sammo Hyung is, he played in a TV show called Martial Law back when Chuck Norris still was Walker Texas Ranger, and it was actually aired like right before, right after it. But also he's a bigger guy, and he was usually in a lot of movies with Jackie Chan. Um, and Sammo Hyung, for being a big dude, he's really good at martial arts, and he's just amazing to watch. Um, so he's the main villain in Killzone, and it's just the fight scenes in that are just brutal. It was one of the first movies brought over by was it Dragon Dynasty, which was a production company bringing over Chinese or like these old movies. I think it was partially owned by Tarantino. So this is all like mid late 2000s. Unfortunately, that company went like they no longer exist, I'm pretty sure. But they were numbered, so it's kind of like the Criterion collection. Like
Yeah.
when you bought the movies, they would have the numbers of each one of their in sequence as they brought them over, and they had really good documentary stuff and behind the scenes. But yeah, SPL or Killzone, Donnie Yen was just phenomenal, and I just found a new on Reddit like a week or two ago. Someone mentioned they made a comment that him and one of the villains in that is his normal training partner. So they've been together for years, in martial arts, and they ad libbed a fight scene that was so good that they just kept it in the final bit. And
Whoa.
it's a great scene. It's a long scene. Donnie Yen has a nightstick. He just pops out a nightstick, and it's an alleyway scene. And his buddy has a knife, and it's a really good scene. Apparently it was ad libbed. I'm like, holy crap, that's
Dude,
amazing.
that's
So
fucking wild. I'm gonna
yeah,
have to
no
watch
joke,
that.
right? So that if you watch any of his movies, I highly recommend Killzone. Uh, yeah. Anyways, if you know anything, if you've seen it, man, you can check out Killzone.
That's cool.
Um,
That's cool. I
yeah,
probably will then. Yeah, because
that is my
I wanna see that.
yeah. So I just watched a bunch of movies. Unfortunately, having taken care of my son and just being too tired in the evenings, I have not had the chance to play any games this week. I literally sat down for about 15 minutes to try to play a game, and I needed a controller to really play it. And I'm like, I'm not going to bother grabbing my controller and syncing this thing up to my system. And I couldn't. I tried using mouse and keyboard. I'm like, can't do it. I'll come back to this game later.
It's
So,
just
what have you been playing?
it's just too much. Yeah. So switching over to video games. So I have been playing a couple different things. but I'm really only ready to talk about one of them right now, and that is a little game called Doki Doki Literature Club Plus. How much do you know about this game?
I played a good bit of the first one when it's a free game, the original, not the plus, and you can get that on Steam and stuff like that. I know the twists, and these games. I've played a handful of these type of games.
So like
Uh,
so what this game is a um it is a visual novel game, and it's not particularly long. I think it's on How Long to Beat. It's like 5 hours. I think I spent probably 5.5 or 6 hours on it. The so this was a free game that came out on PC a little while ago. I don't know if it was in 21 or in 20, but they so like it was totally free, and uh, the ratings on it, like the reviews on it on Steam, are like overwhelmingly positive. I think it's like 98 or 99% positive. It's insane.
has a cult following for sure.
I cult following for sure. Yeah, like but like part of that is because it's free. But it's like, okay, well, how good can a free game be? This game is really really good. But I mean, I guess I can't really speak to the free version because I've only played the plus version. I wanted to go ahead and get it because um, I wanted to play it on the Switch, which is where I ended up playing it. Um, so this game is a kind of another thing that I can't really talk too much about, but
Yeah, you can't.
yeah, but like essentially the story as it begins is you're a dude in high school, and you join a literature club because one of your friends asks you to, and this literature club is full of cute girls. So it's like a waifu game where you're supposed to kind of try to get them to date you or whatever. And it's totally played that way, except that when you first start this game, there's a nice, cute picture of all the girls, um, and they're like waving at you or whatever. But at the bottom, in stark black text, is the words, this warning that says, "This game is not for those who are easily disturbed." It says something to that effect. And there's a couple different warnings as you begin the game. But the game just starts out really, chill and normal. Um, and then it's just a totally normal waifu game. Um, there's some like there's poetry in this game, and it's pretty good. Like what I've read through, I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen a little bit. When I looked through after I finished it, I was able to look through and see what else I hadn't seen yet. Of course, it was not revealed to me, but I could see how much there was, and there's a good bit of poetry and stuff that I hadn't uncovered. So there's a little bit of replayability to it, and it's a very interesting game. I think it's definitely worth anybody's time who is okay with seeing disturbing shit. And because it's not that long, you can play it for free and get kind of the gist of it. But I think this game would be really great as a mobile game. It'd be really awesome as
Yeah, but
like
you don't want to be someone over your shoulder looking at it. Yeah, looking at
yeah,
you playing this.
but I mean like I played it on the Switch, and you could be playing that
True.
on a bus or whatever. So like I think it'd be really good as a mobile game, because it pretty much is like a one button game, like a one button at a time. And I looked around for it to see if it was on the Google Play Store. I couldn't find it, but when I just straight Googled it, I found sites claiming to have apps like APKs that would run on Android. So I didn't click on them or anything because I didn't really care that much and didn't want to get a virus or anything. So I don't know if somebody like ripped it off of Steam and just put it up as an APK somewhere somehow. But it'd be really good as a mobile game. But I couldn't find it. Uh, so there's that. But like playing it on Switch, you are pretty much just holding like you are just pretty much just clicking like one button at a time, as you do in visual novel games. But I did like that I could like take it around and like eat and play at the same time, like eat a bowl of cereal or whatever, play at the same time, things like that. Overall, it's definitely a really good game. Very very weird, but
Yeah, so these style of games, visual novels are like light life's like so they'll give you traditionally think games like this will give you like multiple choice things, or you can go down different paths. So it's almost like a choose your own adventure style. And these type of games sometimes they're more straight up book. Like you can just go down a strict path and you just read the whole darn thing from start to finish. Other ones will be a little more dynamic, like Steins Gate, which is a great anime. The first half of that anime is okay, and then right when you hit like episode 12 of 24, I think, uh
it gets
it hits
wild.
that switch where it, the thing happens and you're just like holy shit, and you can't stop watching the rest of it. So that was originally a dating sim or a visual novel. um
Mm.
more it used to be more dating sims, and now the genre is more or less changed to visual novel, giving you a little less choice, but you still have some choices. Like you could pick your waifu, so you can try to court them and try to do the dialogue choices to go after one person. And generally what happens is in these type of games, you'll try to find their story ending, and then you can replay the game, and it'll like unlock, sometimes it'll unlock new dialogue choices for you, or at least it'll keep your previous path. So that'll keep like there's usually a photo album, and then you can see the still images that you've unlocked, and then when you go down a new path it'll unlock the new images for the second path, and you replay it enough to go through each character. A lot of them work that way. And what caught a lot of people by surprise with this is this, since it was a free game, very few very few people had a chance to play this. So this is one of the first ones to hit the market. And uh, because it had that twist, like games have had this beforehand, but because this was free, a lot of people are like, "Holy crap! Hey, it was solid." The regular Doki Doki Panic was just a solid game, um, but then you had the extra twist, and everyone's like, "I did not see that coming. I've never experienced this before," and that really shot it to stardom. It's actually another one like it is Hatoful Boyfriend, where you are dating pigeons. You're a human girl dating
Okay.
a bunch of, or going to high school with a bunch of pigeons, and the pigeons are literal stock photos of real ass pigeons, not even animated. The backgrounds are all like drawn, but they're actual straight up pictures of pigeons.
Yeah.
Uh, and that one has you do everything, and it unlocks like the real, like the cult ending or something like that, where it's literal darkness, and it hits you by surprise. You're like, what the hell is going
Oh,
on?
okay. I didn't know that's
Um,
how. I didn't know that's how
uh,
Hatoful Boyfriend ended, or the
well,
direction it
it's
went.
an ending. I can't say for sure if it's like canon, but it is an end. Like I think there was something similar in Dream Daddy, which also got a lot of popularity. Um,
There's like a dark ending there.
yeah, there. So that is common in a lot of these. So but once again, this was free, and so by having dark themes and things in it, um, it really catches by surprise, and that's why there's a warning, being like, dude, if you're not ready for that, you may not want to deal with it. I know the add-ons to this, because so Plus was their update version where they made it like HD images.
Oh,
They
okay.
added more music, like some more side stories.
Mm.
They ended up doing more images as well, and they added the mail function in your menu screen. They added mail, so I have not played the Plus version. Uh, I mean, I wouldn't mind playing it again. I'm curious what extra things they've added. I just don't have the time, so I probably won't.
Well, I mean, like
Honestly,
that's the
probably just
thing
won't
is
get
like
to it.
this game is really short. That's one of the
It
reasons
is.
that I wanted to. And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to go ahead and play it um, because I was like, okay, it's not too long, it's not that old, at least not the Plus version as far as I know. Um, so I was like, I want to go ahead and try to get this in while I'm also trying to do some other stuff, and it worked well for that. It's the music
It
is
said
really
it was. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you there. It did say that it was about 18 hours to 100% it. So if you wanted to collect everything and do everything, I just quick looked up because they said it was about 4.5 to 5 hours for the main game. The
mhm,
extra plus stuff, they were some websites were saying that it was roughly 8+ hours, and so to
okay.
do everything they were like, it's like it should take you 18 hours or less.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, if you really wanted to do everything, you could do
I'm weird
that.
that way. I would do that because I did that without the full boyfriend. It was
Uh,
free on PlayStation Plus for the PS3, and I played the shit out of that game.
I think this game is really uh, is really interesting because of how I mean, like the music in it is super good, and it plays with a lot of like, oh, so this is um, like this is what you want, right? Right? This is what you wanted, right? And it gets kind of like I don't know how to say it. It's very strange. It's very strange and subversive game. I don't want to play like a Hot to Boyfriend or really a lot of other games like this, but I will probably do some research on them to see kind of where this breaks from those and how much it actually does. Because I thought this was really different from the norm, but it sounds like there's other games that sort of already do like this is almost becoming a genre in and of itself, honestly.
Yeah, but they do it well, and that's the key thing is it's still a good game. It's
Yeah, it's
like that's what sets it apart is there is others, but also there's not that many in that's translated in English or done in English, period. So I mean, or what comes out is hot garbage that's just Steam trash. Um, that flood the Steam market, and they go for just like the essentially the adult factor. Like we're gonna go for as pornographic as we possibly can,
oh yeah.
and it's just like hit that bar is really low, and so this actually does things really well. So it is worth commending them for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Super good game. I really enjoyed it. I don't know how much more I'm going to play it because I did get through it. Uh, for I got through the main story. But I do like the music, and I think I probably will go back and listen to some of that because it's just so pleasant. Yeah.
Well, they added more music for the plus version, so it looks like you got your full breadth of it.
Yeah.
If on something along the similar of this genre is uh that's different is Katawa Shoujo, which is crippled girls. Um,
Oh, that's
and
weird. That's getting weird.
okay,
Okay.
it once this is actually it's actually critically well liked,
Okay.
and I think what happened is it was a fan made game done by a bunch. I want to say, oh, I'm gonna get this wrong. It was done by a bunch of people who originally off of like 4chan, like before Reddit was a thing, really. Like that's how long ago it was.
Okay.
So not the current 4chan, but like the old
Uh,
like
back when it
uh
was
back when
pure,
it was still
and they were just
was it ever pure? But back when it was better. Um, no, that was the thing is it was literally a fan made game, just a bunch of people just making their thing, and as it sounds, the girls all have a disability of some sort, missing arm or leg or blind or this, that, the other thing. But and it's free. Like you can find it to download for free, and it's critically like everyone like a lot of people really like it. I have it. I just never got around to playing it. And it's supposed to be really solid. The actual story, the writing is actually supposed to be
pretty
like
good.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just like despite it having so I mean, if you have that fetish, then also it's a bonus. But if you don't, but if you just want like apparently the game is supposed to be really well done. Um so yeah, because it was something like it was originally like a joke or something like that, and I think it was like an April Fool's thing or something if I remember correctly, and then they made it into a like they made a couple versions of it. You know, it evolved, and they got more people on the team, and it turned out to be like a solid thing. Um, so it's kind of like yeah, it's uh
A
yeah
joke that ended up being and turning into a real project. That's
yeah,
funny. That's so
and it
funny.
was free. At least the last I remember, it was you were able to just find a copy of it for free without any hassle because I don't think they actually made a retail version. But yeah, so
Wow,
games like this exist; they're out there.
that's
Something
wild.
similar, but in those veins. But if you want like quote unquote real games, even like you look at Phoenix Wright, Attorney at Law for the DS, or that's essentially a visual novel with light adventure game elements where you have to click on things but that one doesn't have any female dating portions, but it's a visual novel that has you're doing a bunch of reading. Now they have them for all types of people as well, because obviously like I said, this one is the girls are all handicapped in some sort, but there's also the one targeted towards mostly the to females, which are otome games, and that's usually where you have a reverse harem. So instead of
Mm,
being a guy surrounded by a bunch of girls, it's a girl surrounded by a bunch of guys.
right.
So like she winds up like work somehow being a maid or something, or working in towards this really snobby like good looking guy, and he happens to have a best friend who's also an ass, and but then there's all these other people that are surrounding her, and like it's that is very common. Or you have, and then there's a lot of the male love genres where it's just like the guys hit on each other and stuff like that. But it's you know a lot of times that happens in the female, like the otome games, where so you can live out the guy on guy thing while or try to hunt after your perfect man. Um, so it goes all around, and you got things that are PG, and then you got things that are like hard adult, AO rating, so
Yeah, the
it's all
gamut
over the
is
place.
wide, and a lot of these games do end up being, or a lot of adult games are like this. That's I mean, because it's like there's not a lot of money in adult games, so if people want to make them, they kind of have to make them as cheaply as possible, and this
Yeah,
genre it fits that.
be careful if you also if you're looking for them. Like I said, the in Japan, uh, I think the legal aspect is AO games aren't allowed on console. So but a lot of these games get popularity in the adult industry, or like as an AO PC game. And what they do is they'll take a non adult, they'll take out some of the sex scenes and stuff like that, and then they'll do a like a PlayStation or console version of that game. So that actually happens a lot. um, and there's quite a few decent, I mean, what classifies as an adult is maybe only a few adult scenes too. Like
Yeah.
you win your route, you successfully get the girl that you want, and then there's a cutscene at the end. Or like they have sex, yay, you win. And you get to see your waifu
Oh, is
naked.
that what happens?
Um,
Okay.
so it's
I had
it's
no
the
idea.
yeah. So
I thought they were
there's
just gonna
a
do their
key animation.
taxes. I thought they were just gonna do their
Uh,
taxes or something like that.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's like, and they live with you forever, but in separate rooms, separate beds, because that's it's the 50s, right?
Okay. Okay, I guess that's the rule.
Well, look for Lucy. Her and Ricky never had it. They didn't share a bed.
Yeah, the Flintstones was the first one to sleep in the same bed on TV.
Um, so you would know those facts, wouldn't you?
I do. I do know that fact randomly because it's so weird. It's such a weird thing. Yeah, but so this game was real good, and I'm glad I got to play it. Look, playing a couple other things. I'm playing a couple other things, and I'll be talking about them next time we have a podcast. But that's pretty much it for what we've been watching and playing. Next, we are going to go to the news, which there's not a whole lot. I mean, there's a lot of like, random headlines and stuff like that that are fairly interesting. But really, the main thing to talk about, I believe, is a PSVR 2. I don't really know much about it, but I think, Joe, you had a chance to look into it a little bit, right?
Yeah, so CES 2022 happened, and so there was a lot of like mini things that came about. One of those things was the that Razer mask we talked about. They released it like the Pro version or something like that, and they did But one of the things they dropped, which was really exciting for me, was the PSVR 2 specs. So I have the original PSVR. I didn't buy PlayStation 4 until the Pro came out because I knew the VR was coming, or I think it was already out. But it's like with the sole goal of buying VR, because that was the only way I can get a. I wasn't going to buy a whole new PC rig and then buy an expensive VR rig to do that. And I was also didn't have really a lot of space. Tiny. I was living in a tiny Japanese apartment, so PlayStation VR was the easiest ecosystem for me to get into. And so the new specs for this, um, essentially, is they're upping the resolution of the lenses. So each lens is going to be a 2000 by 2040 like pixel count
Okay.
per eye. So it's pretty much hitting almost 4K there
Wow. Yeah.
with and they're staying the important part is they're staying with the OLED lenses. So
Oh.
the current VR PSVR has OLED, and a lot of the current like some of the current iterations of I don't think it was Quest, but some of the ones the earlier models had OLED lenses, and then they went to LCD. Uh,
Mm,
but like a high quality, but not So they're it's like a lateral move.
yeah.
It's not quite as good, but in some aspects, but it's high for like it's good in others. So, but no, they're staying with OLED, and that's actually really exciting because the crispness of that image will be really good. The fact that the pixel density is going to get better, because if you don't have enough pixels, you get a screen door effect, which is, if is exactly what it sounds like when you look
Yeah.
at a VR. You'll see like the black space between pixels. Usually, the PlayStation VR does a really good job about hiding that, but the better pixel ratio, the better quality image. And the fact that they're actually going to be the refresh rate's going to be 90 to 120, and you have to have a fast image in order to help prevent motion sickness.
Yeah.
If you have a really juddery, slow framed image, then you're going to get people really sick. So that's they're targeting good specs there. Your field of view is going to be 110. I don't know exactly what the current specs are for the original PlayStation VR, and one of the neat things they're doing about this is it's going to be inside out tracking. So like the Quest 2, uh, if you've seen commercials or anything like that, where someone can be playing in any spot, like outside or like in a basement. You can set this up wherever. You won't be able to quite do it that well with this because there is a single cable running to the PlayStation. But that's a really simple, I think it's a USB-C cable they're supposed to be running, and it's they make it really foolproof that way. So that's really nice. That's really minimalist. But the inside out tracking, what it does is um, it measures your hand movement a little bit better, and it'll measure you know it'll track your movement in that space, because the current system is you have the PlayStation camera, and you have light sensors on your headset and light sensors on the controllers, or well, either your actual controller or the DualShock or the Move controllers, and then it reads the positioning of the lights, and that's how it tracks your movement. But by having inside out tracking, it'll actually work a lot better, because I think it's an IR sensor, and that's kind of how it ends up working that way. The only thing that's kind of not perfect about it is if you brought the controllers directly to your chest or maybe behind your back, it's a little too close for some of the sensors to handle, and that's why some of the more expensive rigs that have multiple cameras set up in front and behind, no matter what you do with your hands or something, it'll always track you. PlayStation VR, the original, had issues because you only had the one camera, and if it was too low, it was really hard. If you dropped your hands too low, if you had to go down to pick something up in a game, it would have issues with that. Like it would lose tracking of your hand. So what a lot of people end up doing, including myself, is mounting the camera like 2 feet higher than your actual height, angling it downward, and that would help minimize a lot of that trouble for tracking. But it was not a perfect solution. So this is really exciting because the specs on this, it is it is better than pretty much it is better than most of the current hardware that's out there. So this is a full like leap, it's a step forward opposed to just being like we're releasing something that's equal to what's currently on the market right now. No, this is actually improving uh, the system, and therefore anyone who's making games for it will automatically be making a better quality game. Because generally on PC, you're gonna try to make your game run on the lowest piece of hardware because you want the biggest install base. But since you know that everyone's going to have PlayStation, you have to have the PlayStation 5. The minimum specs on that, which are better than some of the old graphics cards that could run the early ones that could run VR. And it's better than some of the mobile processors that are in like the Quest, Quest 2. So because they're better than that, you can automatically make a foundation to a better game. It is like making something solely for next gen. And granted, I'm sure they'll make a dumbed down version for the other ones in order to help maximize the profits. But you should expect some really good stuff out of that. And also, they've gotten rid of the Move controllers, and they have something akin to like um, the Knuckles grip controllers, and they'll add haptic feedback in the triggers, much like they have right now with the PlayStation 5 controller. So I think that'll work really well in VR. Being able to grab something and have more of a tactile pull, or if you're pulling a trigger, you can have that function a little bit better.
Right.
So one of the other things they said they're going to do is uh, for the actual processing is what is it? I'm going to say this wrong. It was like foliated or full. Oh shoot, it's eye tracking. So what they're doing is they'll track your eye movement and shoot, it's something rendering. It's a type of rendering process. And sorry for messing this up, but yeah, it's essentially where you're looking in the camera or on the lens, they will focus the processing power to where you're looking, and then as
Mm,
it goes to the peripheral, the outside, they'll go ahead and blur the outside of the image because you don't need to make the entire thing really crisp. You just need to make where your pupils are looking at. That's where it needs to be crisp. And
wow.
so it has to be fast enough. So when you look from left to right, you want it obviously has to be able to switch fast enough. And they must be confident in doing so. But also by making the outer edges more blurry, you're saving processing power. So it's kind of a way to work with the hardware. The only concern is you might get more of a aliasing or jagged edges, like because the crispness you're looking at, and then if you quickly move move your eye to the left or right, you might notice like a curved piece of metal might look a little more jagged around the outside if you look fast enough. And then when you stare at it, it might then pop nice and smooth. So that might take you out of it. But since they're promoting this, you assume that they've hopefully worked around those kinks, and the technology can keep up with it.
Yeah, I mean
But it's
that
it's
like
a really neat thing.
that is pretty bold. That seems like a recipe for disaster to me, but yeah, I think you're right. And assuming that they are confident that they can do it if they're doing something that bold, and I'm excited to kind of see how it works. I can't remember if you said this at the beginning. Did you say that if they mentioned a price yet or not?
No, I don't think they've listed a price yet, and they haven't haven't officially listed a date.
Okay,
Um,
but
so
it's happening, or it's
because
planned at least, right?
yeah, so they showed images of it, and but the problem is because it's cutting edge tech, it's not like it's not like the current stuff that's already out, where it's speculative on the pricing because people are like, well, if it's cutting edge, you might have to pay a cutting edge price.
What do you
Um,
think that the price is going to be? If you had to guess, and you can
um,
give me a range, but
I would
like
say
within like
I'm
50
gonna say it's
bucks.
about 500.
You
I
think?
would say I would not
Okay.
be surprised if it's 500. I would say now ideally, I think you would win over the hearts and minds of people if you sold it at 300, because that's roughly where PSVR originally started at.
Okay.
You can usually get or some, it might be 250 now. I can't remember, but like, bundles and holiday stuff, it drops, but it's been out for a few years. So 300, I think is a good spot. I don't think it'll be under. I don't think you can make it under less than that. If
No,
you can somehow make 250, that would be mind blowing. But I
no.
really think 300 is where, if you could say 300, people will be 299. People will be like, oh man, that's great. Um, Comfortable with 400. You can't do more than five. I think it's, if you do more than 500, people are going to get scared away. That's just too darn expensive. Um,
I mean,
so
to me, like I defer to you because like you know better, but like because you're more in this stuff. But 500 is how much the console costs, like as it is. So I think that if I had to guess, I'd say 400. I'd say it's like, okay, we made you pay 300 for the first rendition. Years later, and it's actually better. We're gonna make you pay 400, and we've got a little bit of a library. We're gonna put out some more games for it too, and it is
And I
still
think
sort of.
400 is acceptable. I honestly think it's acceptable.
I would.
I
I
think,
mean, like I'm hoping that by the time this does come out, you know, I've got the PS5 actually, and I'll be planning for it, trying to save up a little bit, and I will try to get this whenever it does come out. We'll see what the cards hold because if there's something else that I need to get more, but I do want to be an early adopter at least for this PSVR 2. The other stuff was way too experimental, but a lot of people are going to be like me, I think, and be ready to jump in on this second iteration and kind of with a little bit more of a library, see what they've got. But yeah, it's exciting. Is there anything more that you had seen from the news?
okay, so, well, one of the things they are touting is they're going to have some sort of haptic or like vibration in the headset is what they're promoting. So the idea is, if you uh if your like character is being jostled around, maybe you'll end up feeling that in the headset, or like maybe something whizzes by you, it might like cause the vibration. So
Okay.
that might be neat. I don't think it's going to be anything too strong, so it's not going to be like, obviously, like you're playing one of the boxing games like Creed or something, and you get hit. It's going to cause like a wallop or something. It's not going to be that, but you'll probably end up feeling like the vibration, like rumble in the front, or where it maybe made contact. Um, so the you know and just as a point of comparison, so the original lenses for the PSVR is 960 by 1080, and so the current one is 2000 by 2040.
Wow.
So it is substantially better. um so yeah, so that, once again, that's really kind of where it's at.
That's
And the
pretty
fact
awesome.
is, the OLED has these OLED, I don't know if I said it before, will have HDR capability. So
Oh,
so that's gonna
wow.
really be awesome with the dark and brights for that. So that should, granted, I don't think it's gonna get too bright because you can only get so bright before it's painful, but I think it's gonna be really helping with the shading.
So,
Um,
so do you think that that do you think that they will set the price at 500? Not whether you think it's right or not, but do you think that's the price that they are going to go for is 500? Because when you put it that way, it's like,
if they're smart, they'll do 400. Um, I th-
but man, like
mm,
HDR OLED with pretty close to 4K, that's on each eye, right?
yeah, it's per lens. 2000 by 2040 is per eye, per
Yeah,
lens.
yeah. And then you're talking about, I mean, I don't know what the refresh rates on, I think I've heard that the refresh rate needs, it's preferred that
90, I
it's
think, is the set
higher.
standard, is roughly where it is. So most, like, plays, the original PSVR, I think, is 90. It could be 120 maybe, but I had that, but I'm pretty sure they're all 90. So like the Quest 2, the Vive,
Really?
yeah, like they're
Oculus.
all 90 to 120. Like, but I
Okay.
hear, like, I'm pretty sure it's mostly like, so it's one of those things that it all partly depends on the hardware you're running off as well. But any lower than 90, and I think that's when you start getting sick.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
so that is the minimum, but they're really doing a good job of promoting this thing as they're making a good step forward, because a lot of people were afraid, oh no, like they're abandoning the system, because they've had other press events where they haven't said a peep about it. They're like, no, we're not. We have nothing to give you about this. And everyone's like, oh, it's going the way of the Vita. You know, they're just going to bury the PSVR, and
Well,
I think. Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh no, I think that they're making all the right steps, and the big excitement about this is rumors. Anyways, people are. I think it's mostly speculation, but it's like wishful thinking for a lot of people. But if enough people say it out loud, it might happen. Where
Yeah.
Half-Life Alex might be able to come out on this thing.
Well, that's kind of brings up another point that I want to get to. But I mean, I think the real excitement for me was like, oh, PSVR is not dead. Like, I mean, just PSVR 2 being announced and discussed as being a likelihood now makes me think that the sales for PSVR 1 were more encouraging than Sony probably thought that they were. Because I would have thought that those would be pretty dismal, but I know there were a lot like after it came out and then the price dropped a little bit and there were bundles and stuff. I know that I think I heard that there was quite a bit of sales going on. That was weird.
Yeah, it was. So
anyway,
no, the
no.
I mean,
So like there were quite a bit of sales going on and stuff like that and bundles, and I was like, that's pretty enticing. If I didn't have any money at the time, but I was like, well, if I did, I would kind of want to go for it. But like what you said just a second ago about Half-Life Alex. Oh yeah. So my point there is that I've heard other people in VR talk about years ago about how VR is really its own industry, now. And they were saying that we as different companies in this VR space, right now we need to think about VR not in terms of competition with each other, but just in terms of survival as an industry. So like, if the Vive does well, even though I work for Oculus, I should be really glad that the Vive does well because it means that I might have a job, sometime in the future, or PSVR, or what was the other one?
competition is good in this system. No, yeah, it's you
It's
got the index, Valve index.
it's good, but really, what needs to happen is that the industry just needs to survive, and that's what they're worried about. Is like,
Well, that's the thing is if there's more competition, there's more people making these things. But if
yeah,
they start dwindling, I
which
mean, I think that one of the things that hurt Quest, they sold a lot of Quest during the holiday apparently. But I think one of the things that helped it during these holiday sales is they stopped the stupid mandatory Facebook like sign in stuff. I
yeah.
mean, I think they changed it is what it was. I think you have your own sign in thing, but it's not directly integrated with Facebook as it was before because they made that stuff mandatory and a lot of people were like, we're done with it, or I'm not going to get it now. Because people hate Facebook, and rightfully so.
And like sharing games, like I could definitely see like Steam going like, okay, like we're gonna put out, and they probably would have anyway because Orange Box and stuff like that was all on the other systems, but Steam might otherwise be like, no, we're not gonna put this out on PlayStation, but because it's VR and because they probably want Vive to do well and stuff like that, they might take the risk and go, okay, yeah, let's put out a new game and not hold it back from the other platforms, and stuff like that. But
Yeah, a lot of people are asking for that to be they're wishing for that to be like the launch game. That'll be not a pack in, but at least if it's there available at launch, a lot of people will be happy, and I think that'll move a lot of systems, or it'll help at least because it's such a unique experience, and I've only heard good things about Half-Life Alex
yeah.
from those who actually had a chance to, and unfortunately, I have not because my PlayStation VR is not good enough for it. So
You know, you know,
I would love to play it.
yeah, I've heard it's pretty much the best game. Like it's like the best like game, depending on what you kind of like in games. But I have read that like, hey, Alex or Half like Alex is really kind of just the best. But whenever PSVR first came out, and I first heard about it, I was like, okay, these guys have the best chance of making this actually work. to me. I mean, Steam is pretty close, up there, but gosh, the Vive is so prohibitively expensive, and you had to have just this fucking beefcake of a machine. Oculus, similarly, but like PSVR is like, okay, they're making this thing that can already run on a PS4. A lot of people are going to just get that outright. So, it's not going to be as good VR, as the other ones, but it's an easier entry point at the price point they were looking for. You make some whatever games that are okay, and then you really break it open with PSVR 2, which it sounds like they are kind of getting. I don't know how good the other iterations for or the other companies are, but this sounds pretty competitive to me. Sounds good. Like it sounds like it's going to look good and work well to me. I'm excited.
Yeah, they did mention that they're doing a Horizon Zero Dawn game. I can't the name of it slips my mind right now. They showed a little bit of footage of it. Granted, it's they're showing it on a screen, so you're not getting the VR experience, and they only show a little bit of it. So it's just a little trailer, so it's kind of hard to make a real judgment out of it.
Mm.
But the idea is, if it's supposed to be a different team working on it, not the original Guerrilla Games, but I think Guerrilla Games has a hand in it. Uh, but if it's something along the lines of you have the assets already for making the new Horizon, Forbidden West, and then you're going ahead and you can use those assets to make a VR game, and usually you don't have to make it as high fidelity. You can do a lot of changing to that. So if you can take a full game and then turn around and flip it to make a good VR experience,
Use the
that
assets, but kind of switch some things around and make it VR. Yeah.
yeah, you can double dip, or you can do something complete like Resident Evil 7.
Mhm.
So Resident Evil 7 did that with uh, being a completely non VR game, but then you can experience the entire thing in VR. Uh, I that is one of my uh, that's one of my guilt games where I have it and I have it installed and I've yet to have a time to play it
Yeah.
because I want to do one of the things was it Mark McDonald on 8-4
Mm.
raved about playing the experience about playing this, and he goes, his ultimate way you have to play it was you have to play this game alone at night, um, in the dark, no lights on, because you can't have any light seeping through the sides of the VR helmet. You have to know you're alone in the room. You can't play with someone else in the room because you have to know you're by yourself, and you have to have headphones on, and you have to like have that full solo experience. But the way he just raves about that game is amazingly like okay, I want to try it that way. I just don't ever have the like. It's one of those things that once I start it, I have to see through to the end, and that means I have to have enough time to be able to dedicate in the evenings. And life has always gotten in the way. So,
That's yeah, that's
um,
and that's the hardest thing about VR is that it's like, okay, guess what? You don't get to be a human being for the duration of this, and that's one of the bigger uh, issues with it. I think as time goes on, like the dream is to to take VR in all of its glory and better even than it is now and reduce it down to sunglasses that like go on your face. And it's like, okay, if you can do that, sunglasses and like a Bluetooth headset or whatever, it's like is that is definitely better for the realm of actually being a human who has to interact with other humans and maybe have a wife or a girlfriend or something like that, or or something like that, or kids that you have to pay attention to sometimes.
it's hard to have a full VR experience or full game, quote unquote, game experience because the when it comes to VR, you end up having it's more suited for bite-sized bits because it's the current technology. Well, it's probably gotten better, but the older stuff, it is really hard to dedicate sitting in something for like hours.
Yeah.
Um, and that's, but they're getting the, like I said, the lack of cables, or the minimum, the original PSVR had HDMI, and like USB, and you had to hook up a bunch into a box, and then you had a single cable running. But this is just a single USB-C that plugs straight into the system, and that's really it. And then like the Quest 2 is a solo standalone thing, no extra plugins. So, things are getting better. There's still innovation, but once again, it's still really a time sink. And you also have to have a dedicated space or be willing to rearrange furniture, like myself.
Dude, yeah,
Every time I want
that's
to play VR, I have to push my sofa all the way to the back, which blocks the access to my laundry room. But that's the way that living space is down there, and that provides me enough space to do standing VR. So yeah, it is. It's a little bit difficult.
it's tough, and that is one of the big concern is space. But once they can get it to where you don't have to, where you can just put it on, you don't have to really claim the whole room for it, then yeah, I think it'll. I'm not sure if it'll take off, but it'll definitely be a step in the right direction. But that's really cool, dude. I'm excited. Probably not. I'm not. I know I'm not as excited as you, but I'm excited to see
Oh, dude, I am
what's going to
so
be of
ready
it.
for this.
I know you are, dude. All right, so we do have one more segment that we're gonna do. Um, it's a new year. It's a new year, new you. Um, so we are going to do a little segment of 2022 predictions. Um, so we're
Yeah,
gonna.
before we do that though, I'm gonna say let's take a break.
Oh yeah,
We'll
yeah. Let's go ahead
Yeah.
and take a quick break, and we'll be back for that in just a minute. Okay, see you in a second.
All right.
Okay, and we are back. So yeah, so we're going to be doing some 2022 predictions. I'm not really sure exactly how we want to do this. I know I have a list, and you have a list. Is it all on the docket? Is that right?
It's all on docket. Let's just go in that order.
Okay, that sounds good to me. All right. So my first prediction is that well, I guess I should say a little bit about how this is going to work. I guess in my mind. So I'm going to say a prediction, and I may believe it, and I may not, but I'm not going to answer first. The person who poses the question is not going to answer first. It's the other one that is going to answer first, and then I'll give my answer. So yeah, that's how it's going to work. So my first one is the GPU 40 series will be out in 2022. Specifically, they will be coming out in Q3. So do you think that is going to happen or not going to happen?
No way in hell. Granted, Nvidia has done a lot of stupid stuff recently, like re-releasing the 3080 12 gig model, like quietly launching that and then jacking the MSRP from $700 to I think it's like 12. Granted, there's no Founders Edition to that one, but it's literally a pointless bump, and it's only a 5% increase from the 3080, and it's 5% less than the 3080 Ti, but it's far closer to the 3080 Ti price range. So yeah, they've done a lot of stupid stuff recently, but there's no way they're going to be releasing the 40 in Q3. Maybe Q4, but if they know what they're doing, if I think they're smart, they'll treat this like the was it the 10 series, and they'll skip they used to do things before the 10 series. They came out with a new one almost every year. They'll skip they'll skip a year, and like the 10 series, and then come out with the 40 series in 2023.
Okay.
That is my firm belief.
I think that they will be releasing the GPU 40 series in Q3 2022. I think that's going to happen. I mean, it might be possible that it wouldn't, but I'm going to stick with. I mean, it might be possible that it would go to Q4, but I think it is going to be in Q3. So like that July, August, September. I think that's when they're going to do it. I think that they will do it, but that is my belief. We shall see how it goes. So
I'm pretty sure they traditionally release in Q4 anyways, though. It's either end of September or after. Usually is when they release. So
well,
if it does
September would be
Q3,
Q3.
It would be
So
Q. It would. Yeah, I would say September would be the only month that would come out in.
I
I don't
think
think there's no way they'd come in any earlier.
I think what they've been talking about is July. We'll just see. We'll see what happens. Um,
Okay.
but I mean, being pessimistic is the more likely thing, I will say. If you're pessimistic about anything to do with technology or games, you're gonna be right at least 60% of the time, and that's a pretty low estimate. You're probably gonna be right more often than that. So the next round of things is game releases and whether or not we think the dates are going to hold on some of these. Now, I don't have every game, but I thought I'd pull some that I think that are pretty interesting, kind of the higher profile releases. The first coming up very soon is Elden Ring. Do you think that Elden Ring will hold to its release date of February 19th, 2022?
I think it'll hold. I think if they have to push it back, it'll be minimum like a month at most. But honestly, I think at this point, because they've already knocked it back at least twice, I think once for sure. I think they'll hold. They seem to get a lot of good positive feedback from that beta they did a while back, and it's one of those things that they could probably work on it as a live game, and any bugs can more or less be key feature of that experience. It's a Souls game, so therefore any bugs is just part of the hardness. And granted, they'll patch out some. They might patch out some of the glitchy bits, but I think they'll hold it.
Okay. I also think that they're going to hold it. We're kind of too close now. It's possible to push, but they had a really good beta that went well. And so people were pretty ecstatic about that. I think that it's ready and it's going to go. So the next one is Bayonetta 3. Do you think that will release in 2022 at all?
I think it'll release probably third or fourth quarter is my
Okay.
guess.
Okay.
I mean,
I thought you were going to say the opposite.
oh, that they wouldn't come out, or it'd come out earlier.
That I thought that you would say that it was not going to come out in 2022 at all.
It's like honestly, I haven't been to be completely blunt. I haven't been paying much attention to it. I know they recently showed out that the last thing I remember seeing is they had that kaiju-esque battle trailer that they showed. But I honestly don't know of any, like, there hasn't been a lot of major releases planned for the Switch that have really caught my eye. And so I think this is one of those big heavy hitters that they need something. Yeah, so I think they're going to try to come out, but at the same time, you can also bet that it'll never come out, because it's been forever since they first announced it. Um,
Yeah, but I mean, like
but
we've
no,
seen gameplay
I'm
footage
I'm
now.
I'm
Like,
I'm thinking that they're going to try to have something more or less. Uh, you'd want it before the holiday season, but I would hope that they'd have it by fourth quarter.
y-
Uh, yeah.
yeah. I think that it's going to come out kind of a lot because of some of the reasoning on that. That you had as well. Um, it's been a while. It's been a really long time coming between Bayonetta 2 and Bayonetta 3. And there's not a lot of big Switch games that are slated for this year that I can remember. There's another one I'll talk about in just a second, but I think they do need Bayonetta 3 to come out this year. I think it is going to be later, or else we would have heard more about it. We would have a release date if it was going to be out in March, but I think that it'll probably be uh, late Q3, sometime in Q4 before they actually get it out. So the next one is God of War Ragnarok. So the current date, as far as I've seen recently, was September 30th, 2022. Do you think it'll hold to that date? Or do you think it is going to push or
Oh no,
come out
not at
early?
all. It has to get pushed. It's on the 30th. There's very few. If it's on the first or the end of the month, it's always a placeholder. Uh, like I would be amazed if it released on September 30th. Now the question in my brain is, does it come out this year? And
Hmm.
um, I want it to come out this year, and I think they want it to come out, but it it's iffy. I'm gonna say it does come out this year, but that's like
Hmm.
a 51% chance and a 49% chance it gets pushed to 2023.
I mean,
because a
you
lot
got,
of major games did last year got pushed into this year, so I wouldn't be too surprising.
yeah, like that kind of is a good point. September 30th sounds like a really good date to push back to like November 20th. You know, it's perfect for that. Like, well, we're gonna aim to get it out this time, and crunch is gonna happen, or they're just not gonna be able to make it, and they're gonna go, okay, we need like another month, like a month and a half to really polish this thing up and make a big time game out of it. I think it'll push too. I think September 30th.
So did my September 30 saying that at the end of the month, did that change your mind at all?
No,
Or
I mean, like, I was pretty much like, I think it's going to push just because something on this list has got to push, and I think it's going to be that has room to push, um, out a little bit and still be this year, uh, but I think I'm not going to say when, but I do think it'll push off of that September 30th date, which is at this point is pretty likely. I think just in general. I mean, even if it goes to October 1, then we're both still right. But so I guess maybe it's not that bold of a prediction, but yeah, I think it's going to push. Next one is Zelda Breath of the Wild 2. Do you believe that will release in Q4 of 2022?
the honest answer is I don't care.
That's not the game, though, Joe.
I would say I actually don't know where I don't know anything where it's at in the development cycle. So I'm gonna say it gets pushed. I'm gonna say something happens, blah blah blah. It's not ready, and it gets pushed because they're not committing to anything, and it's a Zelda game. They get pushed a couple times easily, so I'm gonna say it's a 2023.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think it's going to be it's going to go to 2023 as well. They've shown a little bit a while ago, so that would be a good sign because they've had more time to get all that in. But who knows what changes that they've made, and we haven't heard a whole lot more about it. So if we don't hear a good chunk more, I guess the next. Well, if we don't hear a good chunk more at the next Nintendo Direct, then I would think that it's probably not going to come out this year, but probably early 23, like March 23 would be.
Yeah, but Nintendo's been really weird about shadow dropping things or just blatantly just coming out like quietly. They'll have a major event or there'll be a world major event, and then they're like, we're not really going to do anything, and then they'll do their own thing on the side like a week later.
Yeah.
So you got like E3 coming up and stuff like that. So it wouldn't put it past them to be like during E3 and be like, surprise, it's coming out like next month. They've done sneakier stuff than that, but at the same time, they could just go dark and then be like, oh, it's not coming out, surprise. Like if they really need to hit those holiday sales, because there's not a lot of big franchise games. You have like a new Metroid that'll come out, or like a quote unquote real full-fledged, not a small 2D experience.
The Prime 4.
Yeah, the full, yeah, and so that's you have that on the plate somewhere. But honestly,
Yeah.
I just think being a Zelda game, I wouldn't put it past that getting knocked back. And you know what? For what it's worth, when they push back the Zeldas, it always comes out, uh, just as a stellar game, a stellar product. Now, the last one, Breath of the Wild, wasn't for me, and I realized that, but at the same time, the world loved it. So,
Yeah. You
it was
admit that
worth
you're
all the
wrong
pushbacks.
is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing you say it, and Nick, I was wrong, and I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm not wrong. I'm just not the demographic. I'm not for children or those who have so much free time that they can explore it. But like I did all the dungeons, all the 100% of that game. The only thing I didn't do is collect all the horses or all the pieces of shit.
Just admit
Literally,
that you
the
hate
poop
exploration.
icons.
You just hate exploration. It's fine. That's just how you like to play games. Just by not exploring, That's
If
it.
there's things to explore, I mean, a Ubisoft game at least has things to explore, whether it be the same things over and over again, but or maybe too many things.
I think
But yeah, this is just vast wafts of nothingness, and they're like, "Oh my god,
I
you can
think
see
you
a
just
mountain. You can spend all your time climbing it and regenerating stamina, and then you know what? You can cook. You can spend your time doing this fucking cooking mini game and listening to that stupid song over and over again, and you want to just blow your brains out because this game is so bad. I mean, great."
I think you just made my next point with your Ubisoft comment. But anyway, like yeah, I mean it's definitely like whether it's your cup of tea or not, it is a lot of people are really looking forward to it. And they are gonna handle it carefully, I think. I think they know this is, the big thing and they got to get it out right. So yeah, it could make 2022, but I doubt it. I think it's gonna go to 2023. That was the last one for me, but then you have something here about GTA
I'm
6.
Yeah, I'm just wondering. So I don't, in my opinion, a GTA 6 isn't coming out. But my question is, how much info do you think you're going to end up getting, or do you think I'm wrong and you think they'll bring it out this year?
Let's um let's narrow it down on info.
All right.
Let's talk
So,
about like a trailer maybe
do
or
you think
something.
they'll give you a few? Do you think they're gonna give a future release date? Do you think they'll narrow it down to a year, like sometime between now and this end of this year? Do you think they're gonna be like coming out, third quarter, 2023, or sometime in 2024?
Gosh, man. So I think that we will get. So have they confirmed that it's definitely happening?
It is. They just so
But
there
they
has
okay.
the last bit of rumor. There's a bit of rumor that I heard. But I'll let you know that after you make your prediction.
Okay. Okay. I think that we will get. I think that this year we'll get a year on it. That it will be like
Okay.
okay, we're making it and we're gonna and mm, yeah, I'll say okay. I'll go out on a limb and say yeah, we'll get an expected year.
Do you have a prediction of what that year is going to be?
No, I
Okay.
don't want to say that, but I'll say we'll get an expected year.
All right. Now I'm not sure. I heard this. I was watching something or listening to something, and now don't know where the sources are from. Uh, what I heard was they were talking. Scuttlebutt was 2024. Uh, and I think that would be logical, considering the fact that they're still making too much money off of GTA 5.
Yeah.
Uh, and
Gosh, that's
there's
crazy.
Yeah, and granted, GTA 5 has a first person mode now, so for a while. So guess what? When PSVR 2 comes, that'd be a great time to port that game over because it's the one thing it hadn't been ported over to.
Yeah.
Because at
Yeah.
this point, like a new calculator should be able to run that game, the
Yeah.
original.
Yeah, for real.
Uh, I mean, very few games have been ported over as many times and sold as many times over as GTA 5, at least in the modern setting, and to the extent because it's always on the top like Steam game purchase list and stuff like that forever. Uh, so yeah, it's there's as far as other games go, there wasn't a lot that really caught my eye that I'm like, though there's a few that I'm excited about, but honestly, none that I'm really too worried about because. Uh, I think a lot of things are just going to get bumped back. I mean, that's the world we live in now. COVID's way worse. We have a higher we have a we don't have high as tolerance as we do for bullshit anymore because games have come out, especially with after Cyberpunk. I think Cyberpunk has proved that if you come out and your game's hot trash, people are going to be pissed. But also from the sales of Cyberpunk, that doesn't stop people from buying the game and owning it still. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like a catch-22, but we are more vocal as a society, as a world at large, to just dogpile on a game. And you don't want to burn any goodwill like they did, CD Projekt Red did with that, because when the new Witcher comes out, it's lot of people would have blindly just given their money and been like, "Yeah, this hands down, it's going to be great." But now after this, they're like, "Oh, maybe I'm going to wait and just see what the reviews are beforehand," because you can't be trusted anymore.
Yeah, honestly, I think that I think it remains to be seen. Um, I think people are dumb enough, or they're just out of
Yeah,
they're just out of the loop enough to where will they will buy the next thing because they bought the last thing and they remember The Witcher and they like The Witcher. So whatever CD Projekt Red makes next, I could see it going poorly for them. But if the marketing is right and the promises are right and stuff like that, honestly, I don't think they're going to take any hits on whatever thing that they happen to do to put out next. Because it'll probably be good. I think CD Projekt Red actually is going to be like, whoa, we really came really close to, having a massive disaster on our hands. We need to make sure that because we can't do it again. Because if we do it again, then that's when the real retribution comes. So fool me once, kind of thing. So I don't know. Like I think that they will behave on the next thing around, but I don't think people are going to spend any less money on it. I don't think people are going to abstain from buying.
I think those who will buy it, who are invested, will continue to buy it. But at the same time, everyone's going to wait just a little bit longer.
Oh yeah,
Beforehand, people were like, "Yeah, I'm up for pre-ordering," because they're one of the few people who haven't fucked it up, and they can't. Um, that's a lot of those companies. There's very few. I can't think of a company right now that has a legacy. Um, that really has that anymore, because BioWare used to be that way for a lot of people in the RPG space, where like BioWare can't do any wrong, and no matter what they come out with, it may not be as strong as it was like Mass Effect 3. A lot of people weren't as happy with it, but it was still satisfying, and it was still worth the purchase. And then Andromeda happened, and also the was it the space jetpack game that they made? And I can't remember that one either.
oh yeah,
But
Anthem, right?
Anthem, yeah. Yeah, so those games came out, and like they're like, no, BioWare isn't the same BioWare anymore. All the good people are gone.
Yeah,
That's kind of what people assume.
it's a totally different
Uh,
company now. Yeah,
so that's exactly it. And so that's CD Projekt was one of the few teams that were like, oh yeah, they can't, like, they still had that perfect track record. It's until it's they're bound to screw it up. We put them on a pedestal high enough. It's like but any stumble is going to create a big mess. And that's kind of how it's going with there's, like I said, there's very few companies out there that still have a stellar track record like that.
that's true. Yeah.
But I'm saying everyone's getting pushed back because they don't want to make, you want to keep your name, your branding good, and so therefore you need to make sure you come out with quality. Some issues are acceptable. We've accepted that. That's what patches are for. But you can't come out the hot garbage. You can't do the Ubisoft, what was it, Assassin's Creed, the
Oh
one in
yeah,
Paris.
in
Uh,
London. It was in London. I thought.
no, it was the Paris. It was with the because that was the London one was with the two siblings. It was the one before that.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, Revolution or something like that. I forgot what I
Yeah.
remember.
Yeah,
The
I stopped
faces,
playing the
the
Assassin's Creed games a
horrifying
long time
faces,
ago.
the horrifying faces was the thing I remember from that. Those are some pretty
Yep.
bad shit. But okay, so let's go on with the next one. So I've got one kind of uh, changing gears here a little bit. So the PS5 will be able you will be able to physically go into a store and buy it without waiting in line or getting on a wait list in 2022.
So you're saying readily available? Yeah. So are you saying like 90% success rate or 100%,
I'm
just
saying
guaranteed?
you as a person or me as a person, at least one of us can go physically into a store, could if we wanted to go into a store and buy it without.
Okay, because I was gonna say I've had the opportunity already. I just have chosen not to because I'm not investing in the system right away. Um, but as just on a day-to-day basis at any given time, I think that'd happen this year. I'll go with that. They are getting more available. They are showing up more. Things have, yeah. I think by the end of 2022, say the holiday season. Well, maybe the holiday season they might smoke out, but before then, third quarter, yeah, I think you should. By the end of third quarter, they should be available.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I think that by the end of the year we'll start seeing them on the shelves, uh, back like normal, which will be a blessing. Okay, so yeah, so another one for me is um, another company will come out with a Game Pass like service in 2022. So I guess to define that further, it's like it's a subscription and you can download whatever games they have on there for the subscription fee. So pretty much just exactly like Game Pass, probably called something different from a different company or whatever. But there will be another Game Pass like service that will come out in 2022.
Yeah, my prediction is there's going to be something, and it'll probably be PlayStation because they've already been in the rumor to be discussing or mulling something over similar to that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's going to happen, and it's almost certainly going to be Sony. The question is, I don't know if or when Epic or Steam will try to jump onto that because uh, Xbox doing it is kind of bad enough. If Sony and Xbox are doing it, that is really going to start cutting into the the other stores' ability to sell games because a lot of them are just coming out for subscriptions. But yeah, anyway, so I think so too. All right, you've got a couple here for us as well, so give it a go.
Yeah. All right. So one of us is let's see here, PSVR 2. One of the rumors that come out that I heard a while back was the rumor is that it's going to be people are looking at Q2 of 2022. So literally, you know, this April through like June, July ish. Um, you
Okay.
know,
Well, okay. So Q2 ends with the
Q2.
last day of June.
Uh, so let's see. Well, it's if it's Q2, that'd be yeah, that'd be last day of June. So do you think it'll come out sometime for the spring before summer hits for all those kids?
I do not think it's going to be coming out. Um, I don't think it'll be coming out before the end of 2022 or before the end of Q2 of this year. I don't. Or yeah, we are in 2022. Yeah, I think we're not going to get that until. I mean, at the very early. If you'd said like Q4 of this year, Q3, Q4, I would be like, okay, maybe. But Q2, I'm thinking it's. I don't think it's going to come out that early.
Yeah, I'm betting on the holiday season Q4.
Okay.
I'm thinking that they're what they've been showing. This goes into the idea that the PlayStation 5s will be more readily available.
Mm,
So I
they've,
think
yeah, they've got to
they'll end
have
up
those
having,
out. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm thinking they really want to hit that holiday market because they're selling gangbusters with the PS5, and to have they're a really good growing install base. So I think it'll be really beneficial for them to have something out during that time. So I think PSVR 2022. That's very reasonable. I think.
Okay. I think so too.
Unless the only reason why it'd be bumped back is supply issues, but we've already seen that they're willing to pump it out or push it out, even though no one can get it. They'd be
Yeah.
like, there's only 100 of them. Guess what? It's launched though. It's a paper launch, but it's still technically released. Um,
Not our
we sold
fault. You
we
can't
sold
fucking buy
100%
it.
of our allocation. You know,
they're all $10,000 each.
yeah.
That's funny.
So in all right, and also with the PlayStation 5 bit, well, also well, the consoles in general. Do you think that by the end of this year, that, or sometime this year, they'll have a new version of the said consoles. Something like the Slims or the Pros. Some sort of reform factor or upgrade in hard drive space.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Um, I don't think it'll be this year. I think it has a strong chance of being 23, but I don't think it's quite ready yet for this year. Um, yeah, so no, I don't think so.
I completely agree with you. During a normal time span, if the pandemic never hit, I would say it would totally come out this holiday season. At the very minimum, it would be a increased hard drive size. It would be the same box, just bigger memory
Uh,
or storage. That's what I would have thought originally. It still can happen, but honestly, I think it's because it's so hard to just get the current models.
See, I
I don't
think
think.
see, I separate that from Pro or Slim. I think a bigger hard drive is that's I mean I see that it's technically different, but I kind of think like a Slim or a Pro model is.
It'd be a newer SKU though. That's the thing. So I guess I could have rephrased that way. But I honestly don't think nothing's going to happen until next
Yeah,
year. The reason being is because during a normal lifespan, there would be a lot more games out. There wouldn't have been so many delays. Things would have been on the right track. But because of all the pushbacks and all the delays, there's not there's not enough screaming reason to go out and grab it. And a lot of people have already been doing their external, like buying the external stuff. They have the memory cards for the Xbox Series, and they have they finally released driver support, so you can put in specific, NVMe M.2 SSDs into the PlayStation 5.
right.
So there's not a real demand there. People have solutions. They may not be the best solutions, but
Yeah.
they're there. And so I think it won't be till next year, 2023, that they start releasing. Ideally, I would have loved a pro model of the PlayStation to come out coinciding with the new VR headset. But I
Yeah,
think
that
what's going to
help.
happen is,
Yeah.
yeah, well, I think what they'll do is they'll release the headset and then realize maybe as some games start getting developed, or some of the higher end stuff, like, you know, maybe someone wants a little extra oomph to run their headset, and then they'll come out with a new uh PlayStation that'll kind of like they did with the Pro. Technically, PSVR 1 runs on the standard PlayStation slash Slim, uh,
Eh,
but like you really need the Pro to really run things confidently. So yeah, but I think the way it's set up now, the current PlayStation VR2 is designed specifically for the mainstream PS5, and they'll eventually come out. And I'm hoping, I'm optimistic for next year, 2023, to have a something with a little more oomph. Is a half step.
yeah, yeah, I think so too.
All right.
Um,
Uh, yeah.
okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say my last thing, or uh, question I'm gonna put out to the ether is, what company will be the next big scandal, the next big dumpster fire? Uh, who will be the EA's worst company to work for, or the new Activision? Uh, will so uh,
I mean, we kind
what
of
is your prediction?
like in the pre-show stuff, we kind of talked a little bit about this, and yeah, I mean, it's going to come down, in my mind, to four companies. Activision, Blizzard, which is one, EA, and then Ubisoft or Bethesda. Um, like, I guess Gearbox has had their share with like what's his name, Randy Pitchford, isn't that
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yep, that's him.
he's the gift that keeps on giving, man. um but I think they finally chained him up in the basement, and or not, they took away his tweeting ability. So should be pretty quiet there, I guess. I don't know. um
You can also say someone who comes back too, so you can say, like, no, Activision's still going to stay strong. They're going to stay the top of the bottom on that one, the terrible champs all year. So like you can say that, or
yeah, I mean,
there's a couple other
that's a strong one. Like, that's a strong, like, the shit show will continue in, for Activision. New things will come to light, and they will still take the reign. biggest shit show 2 years running. I could definitely see that. I could definitely also see Bethesda with the nylon bags thing again. I mean,
That
they're
wasn't too bad, dude. In the grand
dude,
scheme of the world being like in trouble.
but like as
Um,
far as like, but as, I mean, yeah, that's not that bad. But if it could still be the worst thing to happen, and it's not like
if
nylon.
that's the worst, oh, that'd be great if that's the worst thing that happened.
Like the
That's a good
nylon
year.
bags is not that bad just by itself. It's everything else that happened with Fallout 76 and
The
then the
game itself.
bags on top of it. It was just a fucking nightmare. Gosh. Eeny meeny miny mo. Uh what is the safest here? EA is actually not doing too horrible, but you never know. I'm gonna say that and then Ubisoft. Can I pass? Can you go first?
Your
No,
rules, man. You go
you're
first. I
right.
asked the question.
You're right. That's fair. I am gonna say Bethesda. I'm just gonna choose Bethesda.
All right. But that's just a safe bet. So my the safest bet in my opinion is either so it depends, I guess. It depends if you like are you do you look at the the small company and the parent company, or are you looking at just one specific name? Because I'm like, well, if you're looking at the larger companies, then you got Riot or Tencent, right? Because they own like the world at this point.
I would say.
uh,
I mean,
Riot's already been in trouble once before. They suffered a lot of heat back in the day.
I don't.
Um,
Yeah, and and there's some sign. There's some thinking that they haven't really totally fixed everything, so it might be possible for that to mess up again. I would say if you really want to cast the widest net, like Tencent owns a lot of the world, so it's got to be within video games. I'd say, I'd say you could probably say Tencent and one of their video game subsidiaries have a big fuck up. You could, I would allow
yeah,
that, I guess.
that's like I said, that's the cheap way out because, like I said, they own so damn much.
But
So
they also typically run a fairly tight ship. I think they probably have Riot in order. So
yeah, but that's the thing is when you're Tencent, you buy you acquire so many things, and that's one of the things that's like Activision and Blizzard both are terrible by themselves, but Activision bought Blizzard, and it just happened to be they both got caught at the same time. Um, but it's one of those things that you can easily acquire somebody and then be like, oh wow, we acquired you because of this. Turns out there's this whole load of skeletons in the closet that we didn't realize when we bought the
I
house.
mean, do you
So
consider Tencent a publisher? Because I think that should probably be where it stops, is at the publisher level.
yeah, well, it depends because it's like I guess how far do you point the blame? Who knew? How long did they know about it? What's the cover-ups? So, but anyways, I'm Tencent is my joking answer for the fact that they own so much. But in reality,
Yeah,
if I had to
it's a good
go
technicality.
down, I mean, it's playing those like I gotta get the minute percentage so I can say technically I was right. No,
Okay,
it's
okay, okay.
fuck those people. So I would say something like 2K. That'll be my thing is something 2K.
Mm,
Shit's gonna happen with them. I can see it now. I mean, that's just my guess. Granted, the re- in I think the real answer is going to be Activision just stays this burning
yeah,
fire and it'll die out. But I think by the end of the year, most people have forgotten about it. But I think, as in the grand scheme of things, something will of course come up, but it won't be as bad as Activision Blizzard fiasco, and therefore it wins by default of the shit carrying over from the previous year. But it technically came in and still is the worst thing that happened.
yeah.
I think
That's.
that's the real answer.
I think that probably is. I think you're probably right because if even one new thing that is, anything at all, if even one new thing comes to light, then yeah, they're everything from 2021 counts again, just about, because it's all the same, running shit show. So yeah, that the likelihood there is pretty high. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, because I don't know. But I'm Bethesda, you're 2K, and I guess we both.
Secretly, Blizzard Activision is going to win. Or Activision Blizzard.
And then I guess we'll both get a half point if Activision Blizzard wins. That's
Yeah.
fair. Either one of those, yeah. Okay, dude. That is it, I think, for our predictions for 2022. Looking forward to exploring this year of video games with you guys. I think we're going to skip Signal Boost this time. I've got one, but it was kind of smash and grab, and I think I'd like to explore a little bit more before I pull it up. It's been a crazy week or two. So I think that's going to be it for us signing off. Joe, what do you have to say for yourself?
Yeah, you guys, have a good new year. I hope everything goes well this year, but it has to be better than the last one, right? At least that's what we tell ourselves.
It has to be.
But no, looking forward to the year to come. And thanks for staying with us.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. All right, we're getting out of here. Bye.
Take it easy.